Good evening and welcome to the Santa Barbara Unified Board of Trustees Tuesday, February 13th, 2024 meeting. Are there any requests to speak for closed items? Hearing no requests to speak, the board will now adjourn to closed session. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening in the boardroom. Good evening in the boardroom. I'm going to call us to order. I know folks are still coming in, and so we have some slips for public comment, but I know as people are coming in, we will be accepting them also on the side to recognize that you're just getting here. So I'd like to call us to order the Santa Barbara Unified Board of Trustees meeting February 12th, 2024. And now we'll move to language access.
Good evening. Good evening. We have Spanish interpretation available here in the boardroom and also through Zoom. Muy buenas noches. Tenemos interpretación al español disponible aquí en la sala del consejo y también por medio de Zoom. We also have ASL interpretation available through Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Maldonado, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So next we'll move to D5, which there was no action taken in closed session by the board. And now we'll move to the student board member report. Anastasia, thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Earlier this month, I was able to attend a meeting with other student reps and district members on student safety. And we were able to hop on a call with Matthew McConaughey and connect with him, since through his grant initiative, his team is helping us apply for the School Violence Protection Program grant through the Department of Justice. And this grant will allow our schools to increase campus safety by incorporating technology safety solutions and training for staff. And the application will be submitted this spring, and if successful, we'll be able to move on in the fall. The junior highs and high schools have also been selling Valentine's Day grams since Valentine's Day is tomorrow. And this gives students the opportunity to send a positive message to a friend, partner, or staff member, while also fundraising for certain student groups on campus who are selling them, such as choir or cheer. And it's also been a busy sports season with our winter sports and CIF playoffs. So there are a lot of games going on, and our spring sports are starting. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you for that report. Superintendent?
Good evening, everyone. Board members, I do want to start with acknowledging that we got hit by a few storms last week. Thankfully, with the recommendation of the sheriff and other local emergency personnel, we were able to close schools and avoid any potential, impacts, danger to our students, our teachers, our staff. Was a key factor in making that decision, even though it's never an easy decision to close a school for the day, particularly, for weather-related reasons. We never know in this community, and when it comes to the kinds of predicted weather around the rains, what that would look like. And a large part of it was the travel that it would take for people to get across the cities to schools. I have some people that I've invited to this meeting that I want to highlight, who not only had to deal with the weather-related issues in their own homes, but because of the duties that they carry, came out to the schools last Monday to make sure everything was safe, dry, and ready to open the next day. I'd like to call them forward to be recognized, starting with Brett Coulter, who is in the back here. Alan Delgado. I don't know if Alan is here. Is Alan here, Brett? No. Alejandro Carmona. We can clap for him. Enrique Mercado. Francisco Camarillo. Moisés Martínez. Salvador Guerrero. Ben Rodriguez, Jared Gents. He has a fan club over here. Jorge Hernandez. Salvador Camarillo. Salvador Camarillo and Alex Garcia. So I know that they couldn't. Jesus Rodriguez. Thank you. So these gentlemen, some couldn't be here tonight again, but they were out in the rain and cold, checking our schools, fixing any issues, including the electrical problem that you all heard about at La Colina. Beyond their work during the storm, their efforts are vital to keeping our schools in top shape for our students, teachers, staff, and families. And before we dismiss them, we would like to ask for a photo with them, if the board members could also stand with them. While you guys go down there, I do want to acknowledge and let you know that the Santa Barbara Education Foundation is also joining me in recognizing you today, and they're proud to, this is a statement from their CEO, proud to recognize the important work that the district's facility staff do to ensure that the buildings and grounds of our district are clean, safe, and well-maintained for students, teachers, and staff. Your hard work and dedication play a crucial role in creating a positive and conducive learning environment for the entire school community. And before I walk down, I do want the gentlemen, it's all gentlemen in this case, with the others, they will be receiving a token of appreciation from the Santa Barbara Ed Foundation in the coming days. We'll be delivering those to you. The next part of my report, board members, last week we held a ribbon. Sorry. Oh. Okay, yeah. Sorry. Last week we held a ribbon cutting for fields at Harding and La Cumbre, now open after hours. I want to thank Board Member Escobedo, Board Member Sims-Moten. The goal of this project is to provide green space for our families on the west side to play. As you know, as many of you know, there is a need in that community for more green spaces. And so we'll be opening our schools spaces for that. Harding will be open weekdays from after school until sundown. La Cumbre will be open to the public Saturdays from 9 to 4. We want our schools to be community resources, but we will need some more help in ensuring that we have the ability to continue with this partnership with the city, who also was there and is providing some support with the Santa Barbara Police Department and with the park rangers to ensure those places are safe when staff is not supervising. Another really beautiful part of this community is the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. And I know that many of our students and teachers got to go to a lot of those events that are currently going on. I know that the organizers also do a lot to include our students. Many of them went out to the red carpets with local and national reporters speaking to celebrities. Last week, Santa Barbara Junior High students had a chance to speak to Bradley Cooper, if you're a fan. Perhaps the coolest moment is when they interviewed Pat Hall, a filmmaker who went to Santa Barbara Junior High, so one of our very own graduates. And one of the most important things about movies is that we know that it involves a lot of reading and writing and storytelling, which is one of the big things that our kids are taught. We want to inspire our students through the power of storytelling to continue to do that as they move up in the grades. Students, again, had a chance to chat with filmmakers. So we did create a little video. I did ask Oscar to go out and kind of show you a little bit of the experience for some of our students. And I don't know how many here would be fans of Pixar movies, but they got a chance to go see a movie called Elemental, and they got to meet the director and ask questions. So I want to just share a short video about what that experience looked like, including our teacher, Mr. Gill from Cleveland Elementary.
I think stories are universal in many ways, but still at the same time very unique to the individual experience. So through writing, through movie making, that's always an opportunity for individuals to tell their story. As a teacher who always is encouraging our students to create their own stories. What struck me is the authentic reaction that our students provide, right? If they're actually touching hands, that speaks to the character. An emotion, it's one of those things that is in the moment. We're seeing how the kids are viewing the screening through their own eyes.
I've always wanted to make a movie because ever since I'm really little, I've always made up stories and maybe think wanted to make it into a movie.
My favorite part of the movie, obviously, is when Ember and I think it was Wayne was his name met, because that was just two elements that hurt each other.
Welcome to director Peter's son.
I would tell the people to be kind with different person that because if they're another skin and we're in another, we have to be same. We have to be together because we're the same person.
I would like to people to treat others the same as they want to be treated.
Fire is the thing that can change the other elements. Fire can melt water, it can change, make water into gas, and so it was the one sort of agent that could change everything, and so that's why we love fire as our main character.
Ember showed a fighting spirit, right? Never giving up, always wanting it. She's also values who she is, her family. So that's also showing that it's a great heart. It's also connected to our second module, which is settings. How does setting affect the character? Well, when you're in a whole new world, that's also reflected in how you respond. What are the challenges that might be posed and how you overcome some of the challenges. So that's how I connected to the curriculum that we're currently using, but at the same time, lifelong curriculum.
I want to thank our teacher for those statements. We did ask him about the power of storytelling, movie writing, and the connection to the literacy program that we're implementing in elementary. And he so beautifully connected that to the module 2 that they're studying at at all our elementary schools, but at Cleveland. And I just think it's so important for us to continue to think about this. We know that literacy is one of the most important skills and the foundational skill in elementary that we teach students, which gives them the keys and the access to many more of the other subjects as they move up the grades. The other thing I want to let the board know is that we are making some plans for a literacy week to take place the week of March 4th through the 8th, because we really want to continue to talk about the importance of literacy with this adoption, but also just in general, how do we get our community to work with that? All our elementary schools will be planning activities throughout that week, again, which runs from March 4th through the 8th. The activities are designed to cultivate a passion for literacy, foster a love of literature among our students. And we're going to be announcing unveiling our first annual writing contest for elementary students. So we're going to partner with others to get some gifts for students to really give us an opportunity to take a look at the writing across the district and select winners from across the different elementary schools. Some of the activities we'll be having that week are family reading nights, One School, One Book, literacy awards, read aloud with special guests, Battle of the Books, readathons, reading clubs, and we'll be bringing you more information on this week. So we're going to encourage you and ask you to also come and be readers in schools that week as your schedule allows in the different grade levels. Maybe pick your favorite book, start thinking about that. But we really want to get as many people as possible involved in Literacy Week across our city. And as always, I'd like to end with the Every Child Award. Those are honoring the employees who exemplify making the vision statement of our district come true with giving every child every chance every day. So we're going to start with Emily Schwab from Monroe Elementary School. Emily goes above and beyond for her students. She's a strong advocate for special education, works hard to ensure her students' speech needs are met. She's also a great resource for parents and staff members, and I could see this beautiful child with her. Thank you, Emily. From Adams Elementary, we have Paige Swanson. Paige created the Kindness Project, encouraging students to recognize their peers for random acts of kindness. She also presents lessons promoting kindness in classrooms or on campus. As a noon duty substitute, she makes it a goal to build relationships with each student. Thank you, Paige. From Student and Family Services, we have Christy Hahn. Christy Hahn is the heart of Student and Family Services Department. She is kind and supportive to everyone she interacts with. Her years of experience make her an invaluable resource to not only the department where she works, but to many others. And I also benefit a lot from all her knowledge. Thank you, Christy. From La Colina, we have Olga Kovalchuk. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Olga. Olga is a first-year classroom teacher and case manager for students with exceptional needs. She's calm, patient, and encouraging while making sure they are included as much as possible with their general ed peers. She individualizes lessons to match students' interests while also developing their skills and helping students make progress on their IEP goals. So congratulations and thank you to Olga. First year teaching, it's really tough, I remember. Lots of tears my first year teaching. McKinley Elementary School, Ana Solis Cervantes. Anna goes above and beyond to ensure that teachers have the curriculum materials they need and that each student has a book in their hands. This year, she coordinated a book fair that fundraised a record amount of money that will go towards the purchase of new books. She is constantly reading books to students and promotes the love of literacy, and that's a perfect way for me to end. So that concludes my superintendent report. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. We will move to our public comment section, Mr. Escobedo, and just so that you know, as public comment, we do have a time certain at 7 o'clock, so if we've not completed public comment, we'll take a pause for that item and review that item and as an open item, and then once we close that hearing, then we'll resume public comment if we haven't concluded.
Perfect. So thank you all for being here. Similar to the last, am I on? Can you hear me? Yeah. So similar to the previous meetings, 90 seconds. What I'll do is I'll name a few people so that you can queue up and be ready. If you're in the back of the room, don't feel like you need to run. We'll wait for you. If I mispronounce your name, please correct me. I'm trying to learn them, and I'm hoping by the end of this process I'm going to remember everyone's name. I'm going to see you at all your schools, and we'll get to know each other pretty well. So we're going to start off with the first few. It's going to be Maggie Light, followed by Rogue Lindsay, followed by Deborah Reed. There should be a green light right there if you press the button.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
All right, ready?
Yep.
Okay. Rainer Maria Rilke defined love as two solitudes who border, protect, and salute one another. The beauty of this definition is that without all three, love does not exist. Well, we are not feeling the love. While we border each other in our various roles as board member, administrator, teacher, and staff, there is little the district is doing to protect retention or to salute dedication. And please don't herald us as heroes. Heroes, as well as martyrs, never do it for the money. Heroism in education is the learning itself. This is what we all claim to love, to protect, and to salute, learning. But currently, you, the leaders of our institution of learning, are only revealing how well you draw border lines. You are not protecting this institution from the decay of neglect, nor are you saluting with adequate compensation those of us on the front lines enabling learning to happen. And as long as negotiations drag on, so will the public perception of a district not fully committed and willing to invest in learning for the long haul.
Oh, Rogue Lindsay. Followed by Deborah Reed. Welcome.
Hi, again. Is this working? Yeah. Hi, again, yeah. Weird, I came here from, it was a pretty nice walk, actually. Everyone is so lovely to walk with. Thank you all for coming here. You know, you guys are awesome. So, you know, reasonably nothing is going to happen until March, because that's when, you know, the district decided to do the next negotiations. When it could just be happening this month, but whatever, to each their own, I suppose. And I don't know, every time I come here, I get sadder and sadder, because it's like my teachers are actively suffering, even if they don't talk about it. I can tell, right? Because it's like you can tell when someone isn't getting paid enough to be here, and they're not. And I do have to say, I'm grateful for all of the teachers, because they really aren't getting paid enough to be here. They deal with so much, and they continue to fight for us, for themselves, for their families, for their community. Because like, I can with confidence say that the teachers are the backbone of this community, and I would assume that the district has to recognize that, right? Because it's like, you guys couldn't exist without them reasonably. You guys couldn't exist without them. And I think it's crazy that you guys just aren't paying them like they're literally the foundation of this community, the next generation, the future. They're like, like without good teachers, we wouldn't have good TAs they're learning.
Thank you. Your time's up.
I'm aware. They're learning to become the next generation of teachers, because there are so many teachers who are leaving. So we need listen. I know there are. I have said that I wanted to be a teacher, and I've had teachers tell me not to pursue that because
Thank
it's
you.
just not worth it.
Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Next, we have Deborah Reed, followed by Florette Jenigan, followed by Kim Tilton. Welcome.
We prepare students for a world that has yet to be created. I wonder, should we edit that message? The world we are preparing our students for has been created and is rapidly spiraling out of control due to decisions such as those being made here by our community leaders. Santa Barbara is now a world in which the people who serve the community can no longer live in the community. Santa Barbara is now a world where people are treated as a disposable commodity. Santa Barbara is now a world in which divisiveness and conflict are modeled as the norm for our children. At the high school, the push is for students to be A through G ready. In other words, complete the requirements which are necessary for them to enroll in a 4-year university, presumably to obtain a bachelor's degree. The teachers who come to speak at this podium every 2 weeks have bachelor's degrees, teaching credentials, in some cases masters and PhDs. We serve the community, and yet many of us cannot afford to live in the community. In the 20-plus years that I have taught for Santa Barbara Unified, I've worked with many of you. I've watched you raise your children and educate them in our schools. And I'm curious, when you think about the teachers who opened their classrooms to your children in the early morning hours, when you needed to drop them off in order to get to work early, or the teachers who stayed after school to provide a bit of extra support with academic, sports, dance, and college applications, when you think of these people who have retired and had to leave to live in far-off communities where the pensions could be stretched further, how do you reconcile the fact that these individuals were treated as a disposable commodity?
Thank you, Ms. Reed.
How do you reconcile the fact that your children, your grandchildren, may very well have to leave this place they call home, be dismissed from this community if there is no vocational outlet that will sustain them?
Thank you,
or
Ms.
if the
Reed.
community deems that they no longer serve a purpose.
Thank you.
For months I've sat and watched students walk up to this podium. They've questioned, cajoled, lambasted by the adults' inability to unify, collaborate, and take action to improve our
Your
community's
public comment time
educational
has
system.
expired.
The students have been exposed to a certain hypocrisy. They're told that their education is of the utmost importance Yet what they see and experience on a daily basis are staffing shortages and short-term solutions such as part-time SBCC teachers stepping in to fill empty spots or warehousing multiple classes in school cafeterias to
Thank
be
you,
covered
Ms.
by
Reed.
one administrator serving as a sub. This is the world that has been created, and it doesn't seem to be the least bit attentive to the students and the educational needs or social-emotional well-being. We prepare students for a world that has yet to be created. Maybe we don't need to edit that message. Maybe we simply need to get to work creating a world in which our educators are able to live in this community, our neighbors are valued,
Ms. Reed,
embraced for
your
their
time
years
has
of
expired.
experience, and our students' mental health is nourished by the fact that they see the leaders of their community practicing actions which are consistent with their stated agendas.
Thank you. Folks, if we can try and respect the 90-second timeline and try to speak into the mic so that folks on Zoom can hear us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, my name is Florette Janigian, and I am a parent. I request that the board reinstate original public speaking times of 3 minutes on agenda items not impacted with high numbers of speakers. Understandably, general comment time might be impacted. However, this is not the case for other parts of the agenda, where only 1 or 2 wish to speak. The most important agenda items, the CEA waiver, district budget, student achievement, are not impacted with many speakers. The full time of 3 minutes should be given. Students and parents should have full-time access to express their concerns to the board and district on these issues without arbitrary time limits imposed. I encourage the board to seek advice from their administrative and legal advisors and reinstate this. When you talk about empowering and engaging students to improve academic outcomes and then arbitrarily limit public participation, what they are learning is that it doesn't really matter what they think or say. This is what breeds frustration with civic participation. They are learning at a very young age that you have 90 seconds to try to make an impact in a system that is going to do what it wants to do. School boards and school board meetings are the public's first practice with speaking up and getting involved. What are you teaching them with arbitrary time limits? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kim Tilton, followed by Willie McBride, followed by John Lambert.
I'm going to go first out of that group. I'm Willie McBride. Good evening, board members and community members. My name is Willie McBride. I'm an alumni of Foothill Elementary, La Colina Junior High School, San Marcos High School. My mother was a teacher in the Santa Barbara School District for over 20 years, and my wife has been a teacher there for 12. I appreciate the commitment of our school board members, and I know that each of you put deep thought into the selection of a superintendent and cabinet that you believed would serve the community best. Unfortunately, I'm here tonight because a growing mountain of evidence demonstrates that the leadership at Santa Barbara Unified School District is failing. Where there's smoke, there's probably fire, so consider the evidence. When new leadership was hired, there was an exodus of experienced district leaders. Number 2, since that time, the district has continued to experience high turnover amongst staff. 3, community frustration surrounding issues such as teacher pay, bullying, special education services, and more have led to unprecedented levels of attendance at board meetings month after month with no signs of slowing. Number 4, despite hiring a leadership consultant to coach the superintendent, union surveys have demonstrated that trust in district leadership has only continued to decline. Number 5, district leadership consistently engages in last-minute planning and poor communication with our site leadership teams and has failed to cultivate an environment of mutual trust and collaboration between the district and local sites. Of course, you wouldn't know that because the district has also failed to create safe avenues for middle management to provide critical feedback to the district and board. The failures of our district leadership team have resulted in widespread dysfunction that has rendered the district unable to perform its most basic functions.
Thank you for your public
Our
comment.
next speakers will share some specific examples that have impacted Kim directly in just this calendar year.
Thank you. Are you John Lambert?
Yes.
Okay.
1, while checking in for a doctor's appointment in January, Kim was shocked to find that she and her family did not have health insurance and was denied the appointment, despite having paid $930 per month and completing open enrollment in September. Over the next few weeks, while fighting to get her insurance cleared up with the district, she found she was not alone. Mistakes by the district had left several other teachers without the correct health insurance. Moral of the story, the district is really good at taking money, not so good at accounting for where it's going. 2. Kim, this is Russell. We haven't received payment for your group's visit to the research station. Please call me. This was one of the many messages Kim received over the course of several weeks because the district, despite a massive back and forth Rochambeau email chain regarding the issue, failed to pay an invoice to the vendor for a field trip she had taken her APES class on. In fact, this particular vendor has informed her that they are no longer interested in hosting SB Unified students unless they receive payment in advance. Moral of the story, the district is so disorganized and unclear in its own interdepartmental protocols that basic errors resulted in lost opportunities for future students.
Thank you. So I have Kim Tilton next, but I'm guessing you're Sammy Lambert?
Sammy Lambert,
Okay,
that's me.
Thank you.
I will be continuing Kim's letter. Number 3, weeks into the school year, Kim went to request a substitute via the ASOP website to discover that she was not listed as an active employee of the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Fearing that this would result in not getting paid, she spent hours over weeks going back and forth with over 6 district employees to no avail before having to call Dr. Becchio himself to get resolution to the issue. Moral of the story? Experienced employees have been scrambling to put out fires caused by high turnover, even in the district office. Number 4, never in her career had Kim seen multiple parents breaking down with such raw and unfiltered cries for help. At the last Tech Use Committee meeting, parents whose students had been emotionally and academically damaged by the mismanaged implementation of technology in our schools gave emotional pleas for help. It became clear from their responses that the district tech team has been requesting more time to provide professional development to teachers. Confused as to why teachers haven't received it, despite the desperate need, Kim asked how professional development opportunities were chosen. She was informed that the process can be partly political. Moral of the story, the district leadership is better at playing politics than listening to its own experts and prioritizing the health of our students.
Thank you. Can I read out the next couple people?
Sure.
So after Kim Tilton, we have Kim Barron, followed by Kate Lambert. Welcome. Wait, it's just so people on Zoom can hear.
Hit it. Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This booklet right here costs the district tens of thousands of dollars to send district leadership to a USC conference, then thousands of dollars to print it out in color, and then hours of our valuable time in professional development. There has been zero evidence that reading this has improved student outcomes in the 2023-2024 school year, and I challenge its author to find one person in this room who thinks it improved their teaching practice. I also want to say what it does prove is that when the district tells you that they know how to effectively spend money to improve outcomes, they aren't. Instead, they're good at effectively making propaganda. This is literally a booklet handed out to thousands, like all of us, that is full of platitudes, empty promises in papyrus print, okay? And if you need any more physical proof that the people behind writing this, namely the author, doesn't know about our community, despite the hours spent reading it and reviewing it, chose to put a picture that is not Santa Barbara on a story about Santa Barbara. That is insane. So what I'm saying is, I just want to do my job. I want the time and the space and the resources to help children because I'm the one who works with them, not any of these people. Just pay me money. Just give me my health insurance. Just sign me up for the website and just give me professional development that I asked for and stop with the propaganda and start with knowing that you live next to the Pacific Ocean, not the Caribbean Sea.
Okay. Our next speaker is Kim Barron, followed by Kate Lambert, followed by Lindsay Vining.
That does explain some of the travel money. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but people asked me if I was going to, and I said, well, what's the point? Because none of the errors that I have discussed in the financial statements that have been put out have been addressed. So I don't know if we just get up here and speak and then you just go about your evening and never think about it anymore. I don't really know. It's not all fun and games. Another reason I'm up here speaking is there's about 600 people that showed up tonight, in case you didn't know. Right. So the people behind me are not listening. They don't care. Anything we say, they've shown they're not answering the questions. They haven't responded to a single thing. What is the travel budget being spent on? Does anyone know? The consultants. Does anybody know where that money's coming from or going? No. The errors, the percentages that I pointed out last time that were wrong, anybody get an email saying what those were? What the correction was? No. So, I mean, my husband figured it out. I didn't. He can clearly do math better, though, than what's going on in this district. I mean, I could go on and on for the things that I have emailed. That thing that was put out about the restricted and unrestricted funds. I did not see anything in it that's explained what the unrestricted funds were. Did anybody else? Okay. Does the consultant and travel money come out of restricted or unrestricted? Does anyone know? Okay, so we deserve some answers, and not next week. We deserve some answers tomorrow, because this is ridiculous and embarrassing.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. All right, I am Kate Lambert, and I'm here to present to you guys the State of Educators. A survey was taken, and 87% of these educators, counselors, SLPs, psychs, everyone took this. Well, almost everyone, 87%. That is a super majority of your workers took this. And they talked about what their commute was, how much money they have left over after they do housing costs. They looked at whether or not they plan on staying. Do they have to have a second job? Okay, so this is going to be going to all of you guys, but I did have something I wanted to read you from one of the people that you hired. This is from Tony Ramirez. This may sound cliche, but I've been thinking about these two popular quotes lately. Can anyone feel me on this? It doesn't make sense to hire smart people and then tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. Second one. Train people well enough so that they can leave, but treat them well enough so they don't want to. I think that you should actually take his advice, right? You hired him. You've put the money out for him. Let's go ahead and use his words, and let's make that our new thing that we try to fight for. So I'm going to give to each one of the board members their copy, and I want to thank you guys so much for coming out to that all-union meeting tonight. That was amazing, you guys.
Thank you. Next, we have Lindsay Vining, followed by Carla Hernandez, followed by Joel Block.
Hello? Oh,
Yeah.
awesome.
Welcome.
Hi. All right, so I brought with me one of those Did You Knows. I've been reading them. And this is the one from not last time, which was like this week, but a couple times ago. And something really stood out to me, and I kind of wanted to add to the Did You Know to see if you guys also knew. So there's a sentence in here, in 2324, Santa Barbara Unified is a community-funded district. I'm going to stop right there. So do you know what a community-funded district is? And I'm going to just say it so that everybody can learn here today. Oh, and I have a video, so I can even hold up pictures. Excuse me. So other words for community funded are community supported or basic aid. And if you look that up, it'll tell you that what that means is that the state is willing to fund up to a certain amount per pupil ADA. Okay. And this is a great little picture. Oh, maybe we can see it, maybe we can't. Okay, so for every school district, the state guarantees funding, all right, up to a certain amount. After that amount, you get to keep your extra property tax. Now, I don't know if you know, but Santa Barbara is a pretty great place to live, and houses here are pretty expensive. And we actually get extra property tax that we get to keep, Santa Barbara Unified gets to keep, that other school districts might not have. They might just get the bare minimum that the state will give them. So it's concerning that you guys have been putting out all these did you knows and we don't have any money and do you know where the money goes, but you're not explaining that you actually get extra money that you get to keep from your property tax, and I don't think it's gonna go down. So just saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Carla Hernandez,
All right.
followed by Joel Block. Welcome.
All right, thank you. So I also didn't think I was going to be speaking tonight, but I just don't see the point, right? Because we're doing this like all the time. We're coming up, we're speaking, pouring our hearts out really often, and nobody's really listening. So I just want to know how long. Like, how long are we going to keep doing this? A month, 3 months, a year? I hope not, because I don't know about you, but it's the same thing over and over, and it's, it just seems kind of crazy and mundane to just keep repeating the same thing over and over. But I do want you to know that we are not going to stop. We're not going to stop. So something has got to change. And I don't think it's on the teacher's end. I also questioned, are we speaking the same language? Do we understand each other? When I come up here, do you understand what I'm saying? I think that my language right now is I'm speaking the language of student success. I'm speaking the language of having teachers that are supported and that are paid fairly so that we can have student success. And that's the language that I'm speaking. I don't know if that's the one you're understanding, but we will not stop. So please do something, right? Let's stop this craziness and do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Joel Block, followed by James Claffey, followed by Andrew Giuliano. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. 1 year ago today, there was more or less peace between the district and SBTA. We believed at that time that we were partners and co-equals in working together to create and maintain the best schools possible. The past 10 months have shown those beliefs to be completely fallacious. Over my time with Santa Barbara Unified, I was one of the few union members dissatisfied with the relationship between SBTA and the district, and I often voted against ratifying new contracts between us. Today I am joined in my satisfaction by the vast majority of our members, and I have you all to thank for that. Due to the actions and inactions of the district and board since last May, our teachers have been radicalized and are ready to go the full distance to get what we know we deserve. Many teachers who in May believed that we were partners were shocked at the district's decision to not even consider reopening negotiations to help us out of the abyss of inflation. At every step where the district tried to delay settlement and negotiation, and then, after feeling public pressure, changed its position, that resulted in more and more teachers being radicalized. Maybe you believe that by delaying as much as you can, teachers will be worn down, stop taking actions. You have been incorrect about this at every step. So much so today,
Thank you, Mr.
over
Block.
90% of the union members are taking part in protesting you in some manner. My belief today is that no matter
Thank
the
you.
outcome of negotiations, we all have to make a strong effort to repair damage and ensure
Thank you.
a future for our students. We are not going away. SBTA, here to stay. SBTA, here to stay. SBTA, here to stay.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. I think what we're hearing is there is a void of leadership in our district. There is an executive board that is a board in absence. If y'all took 6 months off, we would not notice the difference. That is how unsupported we are as teachers, working our fingers to the bone. We hear of the mismanagement. We hear of the fiscal mismanagement. We hear of the pictures of the Caribbean. We hear of the blindness, the sheer gall to put out that booklet and attempt to tell us that that's support. That is not the support we need. We need support to live in our community. We need support to do our job, to put our children through school. We need empathy, we need listening, and we need you to stop dragging your feet over the impasse. Why are we not meeting with the negotiation team next week? Why are we waiting until March? What is so busy that we can't do it next week or this week? What are you doing? I don't know. I will tell you, I see plenty of our district leadership executive board
Thank you, Mr.
at Handlebar Coffee every day, and they're not dragging their feet. They're on bloody roller skates. So we should be negotiating this immediately and not putting it off.
Thank you for your public comment.
We have had enough. Take a break when you're ready. Go outside. Talk to the teachers, the community members, the students, and the people of this town, and maybe get to know them.
Thank you. Andrew Giuliano, followed by Christine Piasecki, thank you. And then followed by Kurt Berthold. Welcome.
Thanks. Hi, my name is Andrew Giuliano, and I'm not a teacher, but I am a voter, soon to be a parent, a taxpayer. Think of me as the general public. And this message isn't for the board or the district. This is for the teachers. So I'm going to turn around and talk to you all. This is from the thousands of us in this community who have your back, who have already shown our support for you. We, the community, believe you deserve better. We believe you deserve a living wage. We believe you deserve a fair and good contract. We want you living here in the community. We want you to stay. We know the district is forcing your hand. We know that it is the board's actions that harm kids of this community, not you. We know that your compassion, caring, and dedication have always been exploited for the sake of contract negotiation. I hope that you know all of this too. Know that this community appreciates and respects you, even if the district and the board does not. Know that this community stands with you throughout the process of negotiation. Know that we will stand with you when and if you need to strike. Know that we will vote in November, for board members who value and support teachers with fair pay, a fair contract, not just lip service, not just booklets, and whatever else they do to you. Know that we will elect trustees who will hold the superintendent and the board the district accountable for mistreating teachers, mismanaging funds, and driving our educators away. Know that we, the community, support you, whatever it takes.
Thank you. Next, we have Christine Piasecki, followed by Kurt Berthold, followed by Ann Darga. Welcome. Sorry for getting your name wrong.
That's okay. It's a hard one. It's Piasecki.
Piasecki.
I'm a product of this district, and I've been teaching in this district for many years now. But tonight, I'm speaking to you as a parent. My daughter is currently in one of your feeder districts, and I want her to continue to have the privilege of a public school education for junior high and high school. Like all parents, I have dreams of my daughter walking the halls of junior high, messing around with her friends, sitting in her high school classes, getting into the college or university of her dreams, having a fulfilling career. All of this is dependent on her getting a good education. But now, I'm hesitant for her to enter the district. When I see students who do not have a highly qualified teacher for a whole year without a math teacher, can you imagine? When I see students are taking online classes because a teacher cannot be found. When teachers only stay for a year or two. When already overworked teachers are teaching extra classes because the district can't hire enough teachers. The schools are having difficulty even hiring admins at the rate they get paid. It makes parents worry about their kids' education and their safety. We have a nationwide teacher shortage. As a district, you have to do everything you can to attract and retain good teachers. Our students deserve this. Our families expect this. Please pay our educators what they deserve because it directly impacts our students. Please help make SB Unified be an easy choice for our families. Thank you.
Thank you. So just a heads up, we're approaching 7. So after these next two speakers, we'll take a quick break for the public hearing, and then we'll get right back to public comment. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kurt Berchthold, and I have been joyfully teaching in Santa Barbara for the last 33 years, 29 years at La Colina Junior High. This is the first time I have ever spoken at a school board meeting. Each school district has many parts. It has buildings, administrators, soccer and football fields, cafeterias, and hundreds of other components that make up a school district. But I believe that the heart and soul of a great school district is found in the classroom with great teachers. Santa Barbara School District has a problem. In my 29 years of teaching in this district, I have never seen more teachers that are more discouraged, frustrated, or leaving our district altogether. We have a problem. School board members, district administrators, Dr. Maldonado, Dr. Becchio, you have the power to make a change. Send your teachers a message in your words, in your deeds, and in the salary contract you put forward that you care about us, that you want to keep great teachers living and teaching in Santa Barbara for the next 20, 30, and 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you. And Darga, and then we'll go to the public hearing. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm actually not here to talk about negotiations or salary or anything, but I do think this is something that the board should know about because I don't know that you do. I wanted to bring to your attention 2 emails that the staff received from the district regarding the Monday, February 5th school closures. In short, we were told that although schools are closed, we were to work remotely or take a vacation day. They followed up with an additional email because there were such concerns from staff regarding working remotely and showing evidence of such work. It basically stated that Monday was a work day and gave suggestions of what we could do to fulfill that obligation. But if we were affected by flooding or power outages, it was okay. The first email was incredibly disrespectful, while the second was unclear and caused more confusion. I'm bringing this to your attention because the district has a history of sending disrespectful emails to staff. Currently, the district utilizes Parent Square to send "Did you know" emails out to our community, which are in fact propaganda. During COVID, John Becchio sent an email to all teachers telling us that we were not allowed to teach through Zoom from our couches. In some cases, the couch was all that teachers had. The email was offensive and was an excellent example of how disconnected the district administration is to its staff. These are just a few examples of many forms of disrespectful communication from the district. I think it's important that you hear how we are addressed. The district, they do not have respect for the people who make the district run every day, who feel passionately about helping students succeed.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to listen. Please work with the district administrators to communicate with respect and compassion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we will close the regular session and go into our public hearing. And it's from our Educational Services. Notice of public hearing regarding sufficiency of instructional materials for elementary and secondary schools. Okay. Dr. Sheffield.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. This is a public hearing. The public is invited to provide input regarding the sufficiency of instructional materials whereby it is determined the Santa Barbara Unified School District has sufficient textbooks and/or instructional materials in the core subjects consistent with the content and the cycles of curriculum framework adopted by the State Board of Education. The public hearing will be held during the Governing Board meeting of Santa Barbara Unified School District to be held on February 13th, 2024 at 7 p.m. at the Administrative Building. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Escobedo, do we have any requests to speak from the public? Okay. Hearing no request to speak, I guess I can close this hearing. Thank you, Dr. Sheffield. Now we'll move back to public comment.
Okay. Oh. No, it's the general public comment. All right. So we have Andrea Lashua, followed by Hosby Galindo, followed by Tiari Dotson, followed by Rich Lashua. Andrea Lashua. Welcome. Oh, Andrea. My apologies. Is the green button on the mic?
There we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Teachers have been told to be sure to practice self-care, yet we have to choose between paying rent or paying for medical bills. We are asked to improve standardized test scores, but continue to lose opportunities to give students success in areas where they will truly thrive, specifically the arts. We are told to help students belong, yet the answer to equity is giving students access to less instead of more. Teaching doesn't happen in a vacuum. We cannot care for ourselves if we are not given the financial means to do so. We cannot improve test scores if all we focus on is the test. We cannot improve students' sense of belonging if we don't treat the arts as essential and continue to limit opportunities students have to participate in these programs. We cannot give back to our community if we are not paid enough to even live among the families we serve. We cannot give every child every chance every day if we don't have anything to offer. Our students deserve unrestricted access to the arts, counselors who are not overburdened, and well-paid, qualified teachers who are healthy and whole. It's the least you can do. We can't keep pouring from empty cups. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Hosby Galindo, followed by Tiari Dotson. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Hosby Galindo, SBTA president. Our union is strong. Over 730 teachers are part of our union right now, and we brought you to your doorstep over 600 teachers, community members, and the press. We have their support. We're still waiting to see your support. I know we did not feel your support when you decided to sign off on the waiver and pay us less than the legally required 55%. You were given another opportunity to show your support to educators when Kim Hernandez came up here and presented a revision of that waiver due to a mistake. You passed on that opportunity and you voted to pass that revised waiver too. We did not feel your support. I know that if I broke the law, I'm not sure that I would have a board that would pass a waiver to keep me off the hook. I know we did not feel your support when you allowed your district designated negotiating chair to choose the furthest date offered by the state mediator. Did you know that today could have been the first mediation date? Yes, today could have been the first mediation date for both parties, but you passed. You are the governing body that provides oversight to this district. Why did you not demand that the mediation start sooner? I know we would not feel your support when you allow for crucial positions to continue to be unfilled. We need all hands on deck when it comes to providing students with all the support they need to be successful students and members of our school communities. I ask you.
Thank you, Mr. Galindo.
You've been in communication with your have you been in communication with the Human Resource Department? Do you know how many people have already resigned? Our community came out and supported us.
Thank you.
We're waiting to feel your support. Thank you.
Next, we have Tiari Dotson, followed by Rich Lashua, followed by Anemone Mehta. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Tiari Dodson, and I've taught at La Cumbre Junior High School for 26 years. I received the Crystal Apple Award from the Santa Barbara County in 2022. And tonight I want to talk to you about the importance of mentoring. Just to let you know, one of my last student teachers just received the new Distinguished Teacher Educator Award. That's Ryan Helsel. One of my very first student teachers is now the district TOSA for Science, Nellie Hill. But that actually isn't the story that I want to share. What I want to talk about is all of the teachers, myself and my colleagues, have trained through student teaching, 2 years of TIP, only to have them wave their hands goodbye as they walk out the door to other districts. My husband and I were hired here in 1998. During that time, the average teacher was retiring in their 70s or maybe late 60s. Today, teachers are retiring in their late 50s, early 60s, if you're lucky. When I was hired at La Cumbre, 9% of us were new teachers, meaning that they had been teaching 5 years or less. Today, at my school, La Cumbre, 62% of my staff has been teaching less than 5 years. In my school, the following departments have one veteran teacher: science,
Thank you, Ms.
social studies. I'm sorry, I've taught 26 years. I can have 20 seconds more. Now, science, social studies, PE, and special education. This is not acceptable. I have my children at home right now with my neighbor. We live in Ventura. My teacher neighbor works in Oxnard. She has been working fewer years than I have. She has better health care than I do, a shorter commute. And honestly, if we wonder where all those new teachers went, ask Oxnard, ask Ventura, ask their parents where they live, because that's where they all went. I know you can't change the price of gas, and I know you can't change the rent, but you can change what we make every single month just to be able to afford those things. Thank you.
Next, we have Rich Lashua, followed by Anemone Mehta, followed by Andrew Southard. Welcome.
Good evening. Imagine you are an acclaimed PE teacher whose career has been honored at the county level. A teacher in a struggling program retires early, and you're invited in to revive it. You must show up an hour before school every day and coach the school's softball team, football team, volleyball team, and track athletes in the same class period at the same time. You can only do it 4 days a week, though, because on Thursdays you have to be at a staff meeting conducted during your regular class time so you can talk about how to improve reading and math skills. When you present your concerns to administration, you're told to encourage more students to sign up for sports, and perhaps enrollment will increase to justify spreading your classes over more periods during the day. This is actually the true story of Brett Larson, County Performing Arts Teacher of the Year, and the music program he inherited at Santa Barbara Junior High, teaching 4 different instrumental sections in 1 0 period. Our community's reluctance to reinstate the 7th period is cannibalizing electives because we have too many courses fighting for the same spot. Further, all of the junior highs are moving to a similar schedule next year, which will have devastating impacts on those programs. I've been warning our community of this day ever since I was invited to by Ike Jenkins, another SBUSD music legend who gave the world Katy Perry and Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. He died over 5 years ago, so please don't frame my comments as a new fear reaction to important salary discussions. We are at a critical nexus. Budgets are a moral document. 7th period was put on hold for robotics academies, design academies, and one-to-one
Thank you, Mr.
iPads for
Lasher.
every student in the district. We have had the money,
Thank
and
you.
we still do. Does this district value teachers and the arts we
Thank you.
inspire in our children?
Thank you.
I'll wait.
Anamoni Mehta, followed by Andrew Southard, followed by Finnegan Wright. Welcome.
I'm back here. Okay, so actually, yeah, we're gonna do this again. So, hey, if I was in a class this bad, I would have dropped it already. These guys aren't doing anything. Like actually, vote them out or something. They're not doing anything. What are we here for? Why are we even in this room? You don't have an answer. Thing on the wall's bullshit.
Thank you. Andrew Southard, followed by Finnegan Wright. Welcome. We'll wait. Welcome.
So I have no intention of explicitly disrespecting your time limit. I'm just going to say what I want to say. But there is a reason that nobody respects your time limit. It's two things, in fact. It's because they have things to say that they feel very strongly about, and because they're not going to respect people that clearly don't respect them. It's like talking to a brick wall, because we've come in here and we've talked for several hours total, and we've said one thing, which is please pay the teachers, and it hasn't happened yet. Martin Luther King Jr., I think it was, who said that if you pay people a livable wage, whatever job they're doing takes on dignity. And every job that's getting paid for is something that needs to be done. An airplane can't take off unless every single person who has anything to do with it is doing their job because they're being paid. And if you pay one subgroup not enough, they go on strike, and then the airplane can't take off. And with airplanes, of course, that's catastrophic, because when there's no flights, people aren't where they need to be, and goods aren't where they need to be, and the global economy falls apart. And it turns out that if people don't have an education and don't know how to do stuff, then the global economy also falls apart. So what are you going to do? Like, you've got to do something. If the teachers go on strike, what are you going to do? If even a third of them just stop showing up, what are you going to do? Are you going to offer higher wages so that other people will come from different districts to fill those jobs?
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Next, we have Finnegan Wright, followed by Kian Strand, followed by Henry Thielker. Welcome.
Fiddle with this. It's okay.
Yeah,
we're
that's
going. All right. SB Unified has made me what I am today. It's made me thoughtful, compassionate, curious, hardworking, upstanding. I would be nothing without this education and the nurturing that these institutions have given me. But these structures, they aren't automatic. They aren't machines you can just keep an eye on. They are built by people. The teachers in this room, the teachers in the room behind us, the teachers grading papers, the teachers working a second job. Day in and day out, they work themselves tirelessly. They love what they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. But you, their employers, it's as if you see them as lessers. You practically treat them with contempt. For years, you've paid them scraps, barely enough to make a living in our expensive city. And then, when they stand up and demand what they rightfully deserve, nothing. Let me be clear. These teachers are angels. It takes a lot for them to deal with the crap their district throws on them, and it takes a lot for their backs to break. But when their backs do, you don't even seem to care. They go and work a contract, still nothing. you negotiate with them and reach impasse, you choose the furthest possible date for the state mediator to come and process your differences. You spat on the face of our teachers, spat on it, and I can't fathom what drives you to do so. That's why these teachers are here today. They are people, and it's if you can't even see them. I'm a student, and let me say, we're pissed. All of the high schools, all of them, walked out last year. They are fed up with you treating our teachers like dirt. I think it's time for some more walkouts. Not because I think that you'll listen. You won't.
Thank you.
But because the community does. And maybe some more walkouts will get the community to elect board members willing to take action.
Thank you. Kian Strand, followed by Henry Thielker. Welcome.
Good evening, board. It's nice to see you all again. We are all aware that last December, a group of students and I mobilized over half the students of San Marcos High School in support of our teachers, where we heard testimonies from many of us who have lost educators we had deep relationship with. I have never seen a student body organize itself this quickly in my entire life. Our students can tell this is one of the most pressing causes they've ever seen. Similar protests have been done in other secondary schools, and over 3,000 of our Santa Barbara students have participated. The protests have been broadcast on live television in numerous separate segments, not to mention all the articles, and I think it's safe to say that the community knows what's going on here. I would like to remind everyone that the community holds the power to vote, and elections are coming up this year. If a community believes that the people that they put into power no longer represent them, then they have the power to make a change. Now, I know you all. I know you all are good people. The teachers here, they don't want to fight you. They just want fair pay. And they will fight for that cause. If you want to stay here, you got to show them who you stand for. The community has the power to vote in new board members. But you all, as board members, have the power to make policy. And you have the power to change the crisis we are in. You have the power to stop being part of the problem and start being part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Henry Thielker, followed by Skybeard Armbruster, followed by Megan Palmer. Welcome.
My name is Henry. I graduated from Santa Barbara High School last year, and
Oh, okay. Yeah, perfect.
My name is Henry. I graduated from Santa Barbara High School last year. I'm currently at Santa Barbara City College studying music, and I've been playing music since I was in elementary school. So, my music education experience through the school district over my years in the district was very important. It was probably my favorite thing in the entire school day was just my music classes. There wasn't a semester since middle school where I wasn't in at least one music class, and throughout high school I was in multiple most of the time. So, I want to add on to this that in middle school, the health requirement that's being added will cause people who are in middle school to need to not have a music class for one semester, which, especially for someone just starting out on their instrument, can cause them to lose motivation, it can cause them to not want to practice as much, and it can cause someone who might be someone like me who's currently doing music in college and studying that and plans to do that for a living. If that is cut and that is what's going to happen, then someone might not be able to have that same passion ignited like what happened to me. And I want to add on to that if the 7-period day were to be reinstated, that would not be a problem. And your mission statement back there, it says, we prepare students for a world that is yet to be created. Does that world not have a soundtrack? Does that world... Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Skybeard Armbruster, followed by Megan Palmer. Welcome.
$20 million in consultants and operating expenses. $20 million. Why do we need to pay people so much who aren't even from this district to tell us what our problems are when I'm looking at 100, 200 free consultants all the way back there? It's ridiculous. I recently found out that teachers can't even tell us students what's going on with district negotiations or these school board meetings, so I guess I'll have to do all that publicity for them. But don't fear, my friends. We mobilized once before, and we can do it again and again and again, as long as we have to. Now, I don't want to devalue myself as a student, but we are expendable. But teachers, truly good teachers, they are few and far between. These glorious people, I fear the day that these glorious people that irrevocably changed my life are simply gone. That is why we students will fight for them. There are hundreds of us. Our reserves are endless. If the teachers are our leaders in the classroom, and we are their students to guide, the same applies now. Only now they are our heroes, our generals, dying for us on the front lines. And we are their people, their forces, hundreds of us, ready to go at any moment.
Thank you.
It's simple, really. You cannot win.
Thank you.
So I urge you, surrender. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Megan Palmer, followed by Sienna Valentine, followed by Natalie Douglas. Welcome.
Hi. Okay, to start, if you don't want us to talk for this long, then don't give us this much to complain about. Hello, my name is Megan Palmer. I'm a senior at Dos Pueblos High School. Like many others, I was hoping not to be back here tonight, but here we are. The primary purpose of a school district is the education and well-being of the students, but this can't be accomplished without the well-being of our teachers, because you simply can't pour from an empty cup. Teaching is incredibly draining, and not paying our teachers a sufficient wage to live in Santa Barbara is just drilling holes in the bottom of our teachers' cups, leaving less and less for them to pour to their students. Teachers have a role in the class such that their mood can affect the whole class's mood. This can be a great thing. It can lift us up and motivate us, but when teachers are being put under this much additional stress, this effect doesn't happen and doesn't work. You've had teachers share their experiences of the financial stress you have put them under. Many have had to drive long distances to work because their salaries aren't sufficient to live in Santa Barbara. Some have even had to take on additional jobs because they can't afford to live in Santa Barbara. How do you expect them to bring energy to the classroom every day when they have been drained of it all? Furthermore, we as students look up to our teachers. Beyond just being our teachers, many of us see them as our role models, our safe spaces, and our mentors. When we see our teachers being hurt and disrespected like this, we get angry. Our teachers deserve better, so I call on you to do better. I would like to conclude by thanking all of my wonderful teachers. We see you, we appreciate you, and we stand with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Natalie Douglas. Welcome.
I'm actually Sienna Valentine.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I skipped. Sienna, you're up. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sienna Valentine, and I'm a junior at Dos Pueblos High School. During all my years as a student, I have experienced firsthand the amount of effort, love, and support that my teachers have provided me. My 8th grade history teacher, Miss Nelson, would have past students come back to oversee projects and would bring us donuts as a thank you. My mock trial teacher coach, Miss Krishock, has spent countless weekends away from home supporting our team at competitions. My math teacher, Miss Kalbag, was always available for office hours whenever I needed her support. My yearbook advisor, Mr. Dent, has stayed at school past 11 p.m. on school nights to help us finish our yearbook. Every teacher that I have just mentioned, I saw here today. Everyone I smiled at and said I was here to support them. The work that teachers put in is unseen, underappreciated, and underpaid. And I'm not coming to you as a teacher or as a parent, but as a student, asking the district to simply provide our teachers with the supports to live. Because our teachers deserve better than this. And it's scary to me that as a 16-year-old, I am here telling you what the right thing to do is. My teachers have taught me how to stand up for myself, and so I'm here tonight standing up for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. So I could use this time to dwell on the fact that even with a full-time job that requires a master's degree, I still need 2 part-time jobs in order to stay above the poverty line, but you know this already. So instead I'm going to focus about the students. When this district sent out a list of jobs that would potentially be cut, I was disappointed to see that the proposed removal of direct student services, including my role as the college and career counselor. My job is to help students explore and decide what college, major, and career path they would like to pursue and guide them through the steps to get them there. This includes hosting colleges, career professionals on campus, helping students complete college and job applications, as well as guiding students as they contemplate what will I do after high school. While we support our students academically for the 13 years we have them, there is no career readiness training incorporated into the curriculum or resources provided, except for this role. Without this, we are sending our students out into the real world with little to no plan or guidance to get them through the next 50 years in the workforce. We know that some students will always be able to afford to hire outside support, but for the vast majority of our students, including the 53% that are classified as socioeconomically disadvantaged, taking away these resources would put them at a major disadvantage. Prominently featured in every district in administrative communication emphasizes equity. So if you truly believe in being equitable, this would be best demonstrated by keeping the college and career counselor in place in order to give every child, every chance, every day, the opportunity to succeed. Thank you.
Next, we have Victor Reyes, followed by Ali Angelopoulos, followed by Ryan Cybulski. Victor Reyes. Welcome.
Thank you. I am here because I am very much concerned about what you have up there. We prepare students for the world that is yet to come. I wonder if you know about the world of education of the past. Did you know that William D. Rockefeller established the Education Board for the United States? He was one of the main contributors of the eugenics movement. Now, during this time, this month, February, the shortest month in history, we have a celebration or a Black History Remembrance Day. We also have Valentine's Day. Now, throughout time, history has shown us that education has been the backbone, the framework of any society, any civilization. Teachers were the advisors to the Tutani, to the rulers, to the kings, to the board, to the presidents. In the old days, the teachers advised the kings, the presidents, because they were the knowledgeable ones. In the old days, people wonder when civilization really made a contribution, a significant contribution to humanity.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
They said that the femur was the cause, because a broken femur is the framework is the strongest part of the bone that supports the human being. The teachers are the strongest bones, the strongest element in the educational system.
Thank you.
If you do not support them, if you do not pay them fairly, you're going to have AIs in the future, and that is why the people are very upset with you. Because you are not being leaders. You are not being the
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
forefront of humanity. And that is caring for the teachers' well-being and making a decent living. Something that has not happened over 100 years, because William D. Rockefeller established the Board of Education in 1904. That's over a century. And teachers are frustrated of being down at the bottom of the pay scale in our society.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
They are demanding fair wages for the amount of time of educating people, not for the AI civilization that you are looking towards to create, but to the humanity, human beings that they deal with, the young human beings that they deal on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Your time is up.
That's why they're very upset, and they want fair wages.
Thank you. Ali Angelopoulos, followed by Ryan Cybulski, followed by John Dent. And if I pronounce that wrong, please correct me.
It's Ali Angelopoulos.
Angelopoulos, thank you.
My name's on a plaque right outside of this room as Educator of the Year, right underneath Hosby. And I've taught for 29 years in this district. I've dedicated my whole professional career to this district, proudly. Recently, it hasn't felt like I've been valued as an educator in this district. And I know you have many educators talking to you who have as much experience as me. You have new educators talking to you. You have students talking to you. You have classified employees talking, and it doesn't seem like the message is coming through. I have colleagues, friends who teach in Goleta Elementary School District, and 2 years ago they were making over $17,000 more a year than me. Something is not right. We teach our students with one of the 3 curriculums that we've newly adopted in elementary school. In Wit and Wisdom, we teach them how to look for quotes in textbooks, quotes, finding quotes that are meaningful. We were studying Martin Luther King Jr., and a quote that resonated with my 7-year-old students is, "The time is always right to do what's right." And the time is right to do what's right. So I encourage you, and I appreciate our student board member here, and I just think of the students and why I do this job, because I love what I do in my classroom. Please come and read or teach a lesson and remember what it's like to be an educator in the classroom, and please value us again.
Thank you. Ryan Cybulski, followed by John Dent.
All right.
Welcome.
Hello. Did you know my name is Ryan Cybulski? Did you know that I teach physical education? Did you know that I work at Monroe? Did you know that I drove back to Ventura to take my daughter to her doctor's appointment and then back here just to be here tonight? Did you know that I've been teaching for the last 3 years? And did you know that over the last 3 years, we've hired 100 plus new teachers each year? And did you know that the district celebrated this? And we thought, wow, they're celebrating us for being new teachers. How great. Little did I know, it's because all the other teachers were leaving to go to other places because there's better pay. Wow, I wish I would have known that. Did you know that I had a music teacher as my mentor for TIP? Remember, I teach physical education. Did you know that my wife is a teacher? Did you know that Oxnard Unified High School District just got a 6% cost of living raise? Did you know that? I haven't seen one of those in a while. 1% hasn't really done much for my cost of living, especially these guys behind me. Okay, did you know that these messages on Parent Square are not appreciated by parents? I hope so, because we've been telling you for more than one meeting. But you guys still pay people to do that for you. Consultants. What did somebody say? $20 million in consultant fees? Like, what is that? I don't understand that. Did you know that we get our hair done by the same person? Did you know?
Excuse me. You please keep your comments respectful and not personal.
Well,
That was very
respectful.
personal.
It was very respectful.
So I just
because
need you.
appreciate
It
all
was
the work
that was
she does to my beautiful
disrespectful.
hair and your beautiful hair as well.
That was disrespectful. So please keep it to your comments there.
I'm sorry that that was felt with disrespect, but that was not meant to be disrespectful whatsoever, miss. Did you know
Your
that
time
this
is up, sir.
only creating a divide between
Your time
the
is up.
district? Did you know that this is only creating a divide within the teachers in the district? And did you know that you guys will be remembered for this?
Your time is up.
Okay? You guys will be remembered for this. And you have the opportunity to change the narrative of how teachers are paid. So please do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have John Dent. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. 23 years ago, I moved from Canada to Santa Barbara. I chose Santa Barbara Unified. I chose Dos Pueblos High School. I chose to be here and be a part of this community. I did that because I thought it was a great place for the future of my family, for the future of my life. And I chose Santa Barbara Unified specifically because I could have chosen anything. I was a math teacher. I mean, math teachers can pretty much choose whatever they like. And I love my students. I love my school. I love my community. I choose to be a part of it every year. I choose to come back and teach. I know many of the 650 faces that marched tonight, and I know that many of those teachers love what they do and choose to be here for our community and our schools. Over the past few years, the conditions in our district have made it harder and harder to choose to be here. I'm asking that you please do everything you can to find the funds to pay our teacher fair and appropriate wage. If you can't figure it out, look to our district, to our neighbors, and have found a way to pay more, to provide more, and compensate our teachers fairly. I know a teacher that this year moved to Oxnard School from Santa Barbara Unified and immediately got $20,000 raise. I'm asking the district to do what it takes to keep our district a place where teachers can and will choose to be.
Thank you, Mr. Dent.
Thank you.
Next, we have our two online public commenters. Only one. We have Laura Rhodes online for public comment.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I'm Laura Rhodes. Hi, members of the board. I'm a mom of a fourth grade student at Roosevelt. Thank you for all the teachers who spoke today. We parents support you. I'm actually following up on an email I sent this morning. As you know, schools in our district have been able to send their students to Catalina Island Marine Institute, or CIMI, in the 5th and 6th grade for many years now. And yesterday I was at our PTO meeting, and I learned that a few weeks ago, our school was told that it was unlikely that the district would provide funds for this, so that our 5th graders could go to CIMI. So now our Title I school is met with a very hard decision. We have to come up with $30,000 in a very short amount of time, or forfeit our spot for next year and possibly future years, because once you give up your spot, you're not guaranteed to get it back. So I know the district values equity, so we should be finding a way to fund this trip. As a Title I school, we know that 50+% of our school cannot afford to send their kids on this trip without assistance. And it's a once in a lifetime learning experience. Had our school known we were not going to get funding ahead of time, we could have planned and done a lot of extra fundraising. But now that it's, middle of February, it doesn't allow our PTO to raise thousands of dollars on top of what we're already doing via, readathons, jogathons, and that's just to cover the normal operating costs of our school. So please consider funding this trip, as it's in line with and fulfills many of your LCAP goals for the year. And it's an invaluable part of our kids' elementary experience. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes public comment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Escobedo. Okay, this concludes our public comment. Thank you for all your comments this evening. Thank you for being here. So in this changeover, board members, we'll take a 10-minute break. We will move to D9 for board comments and correspondence. Board members. Any comments or? Mr. Escobedo, you getting ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll give some comments.
Okay.
All right. Give me a second so I can collect my thoughts. Okay. So I wanted to start by saying thank you to our facility staff that we recognized. Often unseen, except when you need them the most. And during the storm, we definitely needed them, but we need them every single day. And just wanted to show appreciation beyond what Dr. Maldonado shared earlier. So thank you for recognizing them. I also wanted to thank our emergency personnel at the county and city of Santa Barbara for their work during the storm. I felt like the communication was pretty clear and thorough. Fortunately, the storm wasn't as bad as we had originally intended, and thankfully so. But we know that we have some really vulnerable areas around us. And we saw it in the debris flow and the Thomas Fire, and we've learned from those tragedies, and you see it in times like a couple of weeks ago during the storm. So I want to thank them. I did get to, as Dr. Maldonado mentioned, along with President Sims-Moten, attend the opening of Harding and La Cumbre Junior High. And opening those campuses to the West Side community for after school and weekend use. And I wanted to talk a little bit about our city. So our city, our area, our region, we're very fortunate because we have lots of open spaces, right? But on the west side, we don't have those parks, we don't have those open spaces, and I think we think of ourselves as a pretty inclusive community. And we are a community. We're tight-knit. You know people when you go to the grocery store. You know people when you go to events. But the way that Santa Barbara is laid out, we actually have two areas. If you look through the city of Santa Barbara's housing element, they identify two areas of disproportionate affluence. And what that translates to is that's basically saying that in those particular areas, those with higher incomes, with more intergenerational wealth, are concentrated in particular areas of the city. And that is a direct result of redlining in the past. So even in California, even in Santa Barbara, we still are dealing with the repercussions of racist, discriminatory policies like those. And when you zoom out and you look at resources like open spaces and parks and sidewalks, like on the east side, when you're walking around, I live on the east side, those sidewalks would not fit a wheelchair in some areas on Milpas. You notice some of that infrastructure. And so it may seem as easy as opening up schools, and it may seem like a really small thing, but that was a huge triumph in my opinion. Offering the West Side community a place to be, a place to exercise, a place to recreate, a place to play, an opportunity for our kids to, I spoke a little bit, just jump, run, fall down, learn things, invent their own games, learn critical thinking skills, working through rules. When you don't have a referee, who decides? You all got to vote. You got to figure it out on your own. And I think we can all think about times when we did that. And President Sims-Moten said something. I was eavesdropping a bit. But she was talking to Principal Brock and said something that I found pretty profound when she said it's not as easy as just opening up the schools, right? Because there's logistics. You got to make sure it's safe. You got to make sure facilities are taken care of. You got to make sure, okay, when is it happening? Who's going to lock the gates? Who's going to do these things? Do we have the money to do it? Who are we partnering with? But she followed it up by saying it's also not too hard that we can't figure it out with community. And what that looked like for this particular thing was partnering with the city of Santa Barbara and the police department and Parks and Rec, so that park rangers are going and checking. And hopefully in the future, and we're going to continue this conversation with city council, and today they just announced that we have a new city administrator, Kelly McAdoo. So congratulations, and we'll welcome her and look forward to partnering with her and city council. But talking ahead of our budgets, their budget season, how do we make this sustainable so that it's an expectation for our West Side families, and maybe beyond, but definitely for our West Side families. And I think in the wisdom that President Sims Moten shared, I reflected on it quite a bit after the fact, and the fact that, you know, in the same way that the inequities of something as what seems as small as open space were built up over decades of policy decisions and repercussions that we're dealing with now, and we're trying to solve for them with solutions like this. We just had a whole bunch of teachers here and employees and are from both SBTA and CSEA and families and students, and all highlighting policy decisions, both about funding, both about how you get it, that we're dealing with now. And it goes to housing, which we've talked a lot about, and the lack of funding from a decision made decades ago. Talks about policy when you're talking about redlining, when you're talking about being exclusive about who gets to live here. And it is not as easy as saying, you know, we can fix this all here at the school board, but it is also possible in community for us to come together and try and solve these problems too. And so what I'm looking forward to, and I know it's really frustrating, and I know it's been months of folks coming and giving us public comment, and I'm hearing the same thing, and I feel that struggle. I do. About the fact that it's really expensive, and I wish there were more folks to hear this. It's like, I know it's really expensive. I know it's really hard to live here. I know that it feels like it's impossible to focus on anything else when all you're worried about is feeding and protecting and taking care of your family and trying to pay the bills and do all of those things. And at the same time, I need folks to understand that I feel very comfortable in saying that this board and this cabinet and this superintendent, we care about our employees. And their role is to come out and tell us, and I appreciate it so much when they come and they give their personal stories, and we have folks speak truth to power because it keeps us grounded in why this is so important, and that is their role. But the way that I see my role, and I'm going to use I statements now, is that yes, and it's not lost on me that we just had our first negotiation session with our other labor partner, who are also the lowest paid employees in the district, and that matters to me. And so that needs to be another consideration. Doesn't mean we put one over the other, but these are the things that the board needs to grapple with, and it's the things that we are grappling with. And you do not want us negotiating from the dais. I have every faith in our negotiating team. I have every faith in our labor partners' negotiating teams. But it is a process, and it's not as easy as saying it's done after a couple of meetings. But I feel very confident that we're going to get through this together. And when we get to the other side, my challenge is that we and our labor partners come together to also work on the parts that can't be solved here at a board meeting. So that means focusing on other policy. That means trying to right the wrongs of policy decisions that were not made by us, but we're now dealing with the consequences. And it's not going to be easy, but this is a partnership. And the only way that we get through this is together. And if I can put a challenge out there, I get the emotion. There were some comments tonight that I have not been upset during public comment until tonight. And I can think of one particular comment, but there were comments tonight that I want us to be and understand that we're on the same side of the issue. We are trying to solve for the same thing, and there are more than just one consideration. And I feel strong that we're going to get through this. I feel good about it, and I'm challenging us that when we do, we come together so that we can start working on long-term solutions. And so, thank you. I didn't expect to say much of that, but I felt like I needed to, so thank you.
Mr. Banning.
I hadn't planned to say too much, and I won't, but I would like to thank Gabe for raising some of the issues that I wanted to talk about tonight. The facilities group, the emergency services, the incredible cooperation and collaboration and hard work it takes to make the school run in these emergency situations, and I appreciate that very much. I was also part of a thing at Harding when they opened the open space classroom, and at that point we were talking about opening the fields, and it was exciting to hear it, and even more so to know that we've gone from talking about that to getting it done. I appreciate, Gabe, your comments to put some of these things in perspective politically and historically. You're taking a school district program like the open space that we just did and broadening it with view of history and perspective and context. It's very helpful. I appreciate that. Lastly, I would like to add my voice to those saying that we are working together. We're trying to be on the same side, and we sit and listen, and that's what we have to do. That's what the rules are about. We are running a meeting in front of the public, not with the public, and so when the comments are here, what we're supposed to do is listen, and we're doing that. And I think remarkably respectfully. I think that that's a very important piece, that we are trying to be on the same page and work and find solutions to complex problems. It's frustrating to hear that you just simply have to do this or simply have to do this. There's nothing simple about what we're doing here. It's complex. There's moving parts in every direction. We want to represent and support our teachers, our staff. We want to represent our community. It's all difficult to put those pieces together. And it's not something that can simply be done overnight. And I would ask the community, the teachers, and everyone to realize that what we're trying to do will take time, and that you can't change things that have been problems for a long time overnight. So thank you for your comments. I appreciate them, I support them, and I want to say also thank you to the staff and the teachers that are here and share their positions. It does help us to hear these things. Thank you.
Ms. Munoz?
Yes, thank you.
That was a balloon.
Yeah. Yes, I also want to express appreciation to everyone from, just everyone on the school staff that kept our schools going during the storms and during just the anticipation of a storm and stuff. We know about storms and floods in this community, and and what it's like to keep the students calm and know that they're supported and that they're in a safe place, and that the grown-ups around them are there for them. I'm also overjoyed about the open spaces at the schools at Harding and at La Cumbre Junior High. I wasn't able to be there for the ribbon cutting, but I plan to go and enjoy, and to just take in all the community that's out there. It's nice to have the longer days and some days with sunshine and such. I used to work out on the La Cumbre Junior High campus after work with a little fitness worker, a fitness trainer, I guess, that I would meet right after work, and just it's so cool just to see, you know, the students figuring things out, and as Mr. Escobedo said, negotiating and figuring out how what the rules are and how things are going to work out and whatnot. It's so important. I've worked very closely with many groups on the west side where some of the apartment buildings, the managers don't allow kids to be outside, and really there's only like, you know, small sidewalks and a parking lot, not really much of a place to play. And I'm sure, you know, just Santa Barbara being what it is, that a lot of the families from the east side and downtown will also make it over there on their bikes and, you know, with their moms or whatnot, dropping them off. I've also taken part in like the cleanup efforts on the west side Saturday mornings and just meeting out there. I see Ish out here, which we've walked the west side together and such. And just, you know, I remember the excitement when the little pocket park was open over there, and met a lot of the senoras out there and whatnot. And I also want to, you know, just share my appreciation. I know that there's, you know, with negotiations and so forth, everyone's come forward. I want to recognize the playground supervisors, the folks in the office that teach and mentor our students and support them. I'm certainly familiar with the students that know that Mrs. So-and-so is out there, or Mr., you know, Mr. such and such, and just, you know, so much that they do, that they're teachers also. And I just wanted them to know that I value them, being out there day after day with our students, and how they see, you know, the little girl coming down and she starts growing up, and then they see the little brother and the cousins and all that, and they're familiar with them, and just recognizing that. And how we are a community, and Santa Barbara is a hard place to survive. You know, we have housing, tenant issues, you know, the school, the community, and policing and so forth. And so there's a lot to it that all comes together, and the partnership that we have with the city and many of the other entities make it work. So just, you know, just want to remark that, and along with my fellow board colleagues here. Thank you.
Ms. Beal.
I don't have much to add because my fellow board members have said most of what I've been feeling. Again, this is an emotional time, and I think it is very difficult for everybody to think about the idea of the impasse. But I would like to view the impasse as a thing where the negotiation takes a very kind of granular look at finances and budget and what the district can afford. And so I hope that it can be viewed as a good process that will have a good outcome where everybody feels that everything is examined and we understand how we can fund teacher salaries, classified staff salaries, all the things. The school district is a physical plant, not just a place where we deliver education. There are buildings, there are grounds, there are future things that we have to plan for. So the budget really is quite big, and so I'm still trying to understand it. It will take some time. I am happy to see the community and the students supporting their teachers. We are all educated here, and we all have a teacher that we think about, if not more than one teacher. So the idea of that there's disrespect for the teachers seems so alien to me, because there have been such important teachers in my life. So I am hoping that we can come through this with preserving the respect for the teachers. And as my fellow board members have asked, this is a community question. When physicians like myself cannot afford to live in Santa Barbara and are leaving, what hope do we have for teachers? And that is a really big question. And so housing, if you are trying to support housing in your neighborhood, it's not just for some random person, it's for your teachers, it's for your doctors, it's for everybody. So I would like the community to look at the bigger picture, which is support your community. That's all I have to say about that.
Thank you. So thank you, board members. I appreciate the comments, echo the comments. I too had to, as part of the representative for the Santa Barbara Education Foundation, I was part of an instrument collection day that I think there's 4 throughout the year at the various junior highs, and this one happened to be at La Colina. While we didn't collect any instruments that day, it was the first day. However, we had great entertainment from the jazz band. So that goes to say about the level of art that we have in this community. At that level, they were awesome. They had some trombone shorties in there, playing the brass was where it's at. So it was just good to be there and celebrate them and what they're doing in that work. So we want to continue to support that, and whatever we need to do, we heard various comments, but whatever we can do to make sure that we're nurturing it and continue to build others up and see them in the bands and different things that we go out to, football games in various places. I think there's a couple upcoming jazz events that are coming up, so we want to make sure we get those up and out so the board can attend those and support those events and those students. I just really appreciated that. I also had the chance also with Mr. Escobedo and Dr. Maldonado and others to attend the Harding opening of space. It was great. Started with First Five, like open space. The littles have to have open space, right? And so they're natural scientists because we're always telling them, don't put that in your mouth. But that's how they taste it, feel it, all those things, right? So it was good to see that, and and also open space with regards to it being a familiar place for families to be able to go to and just to just sit and watch. I was comparing it also to a neighborhood watch. We can watch our kids grow and watch our families come together. So I was so grateful to see other community partners coming out to celebrate that and how we're going to work together to sustain that. And I was just saying to myself, it was so big that day. We had 2 sets of scissors. One for the district, and there was a huge one from the city. I said, so that said to me, you're going to have a huge part in making sure we sustain this at all the other places. I'm just saying. That was a symbol. So, so just really appreciated the enthusiasm in the room about that. And I echo the comments, with regards to board members in terms of it saddens me to the point where we feel we're so divisive right now, and it's so emotional, and how we're going to figure this out. We cannot get through it unless we get there together. And I know it seems like we're apart and maybe we're not hearing each other, and those parts, as Ms. Bill said, with regards to using this impasse as an opportunity, perhaps we can hear each other, because right now we're just kind of hearing, and when it comes across being disrespectful, the ears kind of shut down. I know mine do. And so I keep note of the comments to say, okay, is there a way we can respond? Is there a way we can say with regards to hearing it? Because I understand how critical my life has been because of teachers, understand that. And so we want to be mindful that it's one perspective, but don't be disrespectful to the other perspective because it happens to seem like it's disagreeing. So that's respect is really crucial as it continues to undergirth, if you will, relationships. It has to start there. And I'll just be honest, I in Mr. Escobedo, with regards to, I hadn't really gotten upset about it. Very, very mindful of the emotion here and really taking it into consideration. We don't leave it here, just like you don't leave it, the community coming out. We don't leave it, and we really are trying really hard to do that, and not trying to come from a defensive mode, but really there really is an understanding of how we're going to do that, and really how do we take into consideration the perspective that is coming before us, and taking how we're doing it and how we're able to manage those things. And it is not going to be all solved by Santa Barbara Unified, but we're going to have to be a great partner in this community to do that. But I don't want to let this moment go to make sure that the microaggression that happened here can be couched in a difference of salary negotiations, because we cannot be compliant and complacent and let that go. We just can't. And while that was pretty obvious there's been many microaggressions and comments coming here. We cannot be complacent and compliant. We have to address it and say that it's not okay. And we, more than anything, the microaggression, whom it's going to, it also has to be addressed from others around us that it's not being directed to. So that comment need to be checked, but others don't look just like me. It was couched in a comment. Trust me, it was not a comment. A compliment, I'm saying. So I don't want to get here and preach, but I am not going to let those things go. We've talked about the very thing that this culture here going on in Santa Barbara Unified is right there. So we have a lot of work we have to do. We have to continue to work on our culture. We have to continue to call each other up to a better way to address things. And just because it's uncomfortable, and just because, hey, I'm going to vote you out, that's going to be let go, might not want to stay here. But that's not going to solve anything. How we solve it is we come together and we check each other when that behavior is not respectful to anyone. And when there's a microaggression, we need to check it. And we have to be brave and we have to be courageous to check it. Just like we're going to have to be brave and courageous as we continue to go through this. And we cannot get through it unless we go through it together. And when we said this as a board, we mean it as superintendent and cabinet. Everybody's trying to get this. And everybody's going to share in this. And so we've just got to figure out how we're going to listen to each other. And I'm proud to serve this district, no less proud. But we got to, I can't separate it because that was going on today. It's still a part of who we are. So I'm still very proud to serve as a board member of this district. But we are going to continue to build a culture of respect here. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to be at this and be okay with things that we need to check. So with that, I'll comment. But we realize it. We want to hear from teachers, and this is a space where you come and tell us, and you're not going to hear us because we're not going to hear each other if we're going back and forth. So the time that we have in public comment is our time to respectfully listen. So let's just make sure that we're taking advantage of the space to speak, to be able to still speak freely. Just make sure that we're speaking respectfully. So thank you. So that moves us to our agenda item E, acceptance of donations. Board members, may I have a motion to accept the donations?
I move to accept donations.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're next moving to our consent agenda. Board members, any agenda items you would like to pull? Hearing no request to pull items, may I have a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. We've done our public hearing, and now we'll move to H, action agenda. Adoption of Resolution 2023-24-19 regarding sufficiency of instructional manuals for K-12 educational service. That was the hearing that was there. So I don't think we don't have any requests to speak on this item? No. Okay. I don't think Dr. Sheffield, she's already said, so she doesn't have to come up. You're good. You don't have to come up. So I need a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the the resolution regarding sufficiency of instructional materials for K-12.
I'll second.
Okay, been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. H2, approval to open the 30-day window for public inspection. Okay, see you, Miss.
I move to approve the opening. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Sorry, the presentation? Okay. Sorry.
It's a new one.
Rage.
It's the new one.
Feel like
A new item. So
Yeah.
One of the cabinet members got the bill.
Good evening, Board President Sis Moten, Superintendent Maldonado, Board Trustees, District Staff. I'm Sonia Wilson, Executive Director of Secondary, and I'm here with my team of instructional specialists, Mr. Art Nelson Concordia, Ms. Alexa Levesque, and they will be providing a detailed presentation about the Ethnic Studies adoption, as well as the action item before you with a request to open the 30-day window for public inspection.
Hello, good evening. So Alexa and I will be walking you through a presentation, just giving you an overview of our request to open up the 30-day window. So the first two slides we've shared the last time we were here, which just gives you an overview of really the work that has gone into initiating the course, identifying the text that we'd like formally adopted up to this point right now for the 30-day window request. So the first course is History of Africans in America. It's our Black Studies course. And it's simultaneously a U.S. history course approved by the UCOP. This timeline is the one outlining our process for our Chicana, Chicano, Chicanx, and Latino, Latinx studies, our CHILAT studies course, which also is simultaneously a U.S. history course approved by the UCOP.
So this slide outlines who was a part of our adoption committee. It was important to us that we had representation from all of our high schools, which we are happy we were able to achieve. It's also worth noting that our alt ed educators really took a leading role in this process, and this is important because you want to make sure that these courses and thus these texts really meet the needs of our students who are most often marginalized. So as a part of this adoption committee, our teachers analyzed various texts using adoption toolkit that we adopted from the 2008 state adoption toolkit. And we had them analyze the text looking at 4 different lenses: our social science framework and content standards, because as mentioned, these classes do count as a U.S. history course, our ethnic studies 4 cornerstones, because they also count as an ethnic studies course. And then finally, through our district priorities, we wanted to make sure that any text we adopt helps us continue the work we're already doing as a district, such as integrated ELD and UDL.
So I think for the most part, we're familiar with the history social studies framework, the history social studies content standards, and of course our vision and mission. We might not be as familiar with ethnic studies and what that means. And I think generally, as a relatively new field in K-12, we have some work to do to educate folks in terms of what exactly ethnic studies is. And so this what we're calling here in Santa Barbara Unified, the 4 cornerstones of ethnic studies, was distilled out of our district's official definition, which is aligned with the state model curriculum's definition. And it is, I think, a much more accessible overview of what we mean by ethnic studies. Essentially, it's the history that centers the experiences of communities of color. It means developing a criticality, and I really appreciate Board Member Escobedo's sharing of the public space policy program, which is taking into account the history of our place and how inequitable structures are really shaping what we're experiencing. And so I think that's key to ethnic studies, right? Equipping young people to have an understanding of causal thinking, historical thinking, and an understanding of systems and power. And then that is done really with the express purpose of engaging young people to participate, to help build this democracy and to problem solve. And of course, that's all done in community, not in isolation, but collectively with the purpose of really humanizing ourselves and each other. So I think this is a useful frame. It's definitely one we are developing our program through.
So as a result of the toolkit, our adoption committee coalesced on 2 texts to recommend for the 30-day window for our History of Africans in America course. They're looking at Black History 365, and for our Chicano Latino Studies course, Give Me Liberty.
So we are, in this moment, ready to share both online and in person copies of these 2 texts for the 30-day window for public inspection.
All right, any questions, comments?
No request to speak. Board members, any questions or comments? Mr. Escobedo.
I just want to thank you all for your hard work. And for the district being a leader in this space. And one thing really stuck out to me is the fourth cornerstone that you talked about is the community and solidarity piece of recognizing that we are all one. And one of the things that you highlighted made me smile because it's in Lakesh, which is a poem that basically says, the first is Tu eres mi otro yo. Basically, the poem goes on to say, and I'll say it in English, you are my other me. If I do harm to you, I do harm to myself. If I love and respect you, I love and respect myself. One of the most impactful things that a mentor shared with me, it honestly reframed the way that I look at even people that I disagree with, is we're in community together, and I find that a really valuable cornerstone, so I just want to thank you for that.
Additional comments, board members? Okay. Ms. Munoz?
Just brief, but I'd like to, appreciate certainly the work that you're doing and in being inclusive in doing that. And I'm looking forward to reviewing the instructional materials. And then I may have input at that point. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Escobedo.
I wanted to highlight one more thing. Thank you for, I know this is in all of the work that we do, but making sure that this is an A through G, meets the A through G requirements is huge for our students, so that they can embrace the curriculum that they want to take, but it also gets them a little closer to being able to apply if that's something that they wanted to do. So thank you.
Thank you. I just want to thank you for the work and where we've come. I was part of the community when all those students sat here when we actually made that mandatory here at Santa Barbara Unified. Just appreciate that work and the work how we continue to do that, because it started out of community. When you speak to that, it started out of a community of young folks and making that happen, and so we were able to do that. And that is the great things that can happen when we work together with community. And so I look forward to looking at the materials online. I do have a question with regards to, so how, other than on our website, are there other community partners that we may have make sure that they're doing it, that we've included in them to be able to review this materials as well?
We haven't worked with community partners specific, or in particular. We work with community partners.
Yes.
But not in the process of identifying these texts. That was really driven by our teachers, and I think maybe this is the appropriate time to invite them to take a look.
The other community partners to take a look at it, or is it just?
Yes, I think broadly.
Yeah.
And then, we should invite them.
Yeah. I don't know how you do that process, but I think that's an important, because it came out of the community, so it would be important to invite the community and to see where we are and what materials that we're going to be using online. So it's great. The teachers is great. That's where we start with that. But then if we're broadening that out, we might want to make sure that we're including the community to do that.
I agree. And I know that when I first arrived, this was in the works, and that we were hearing a lot from the community partners that asked for this and were very supportive in the 2018 adoption. So I will ask, we will work with you on some of the folks that I remember that were part of those meetings, and then maybe with our director of community partnerships, we'll do some outreach to them. Her name is escaping me right now, but I know she passed away last year.
Gloria Liggett.
Gloria Liggett, and folks like her who I think were critical to this work. So I do think, thank you for bringing that up. That's a great reminder for me and for us to try to get some direct outreach to them and maybe plan something where we can host them to come here to review the materials. Thank you.
That would be really good. Thank you. Thank you for being open to that. And the second question, this may be further down, just because it made me think about, the history of this community. So in the classes, do you invite community members to come and speak? Or is it something to think about, not adding to your
I think generally there's an openness too, and we have had different, it depends upon the teacher.
Yeah.
And I think broadly, part of our professional learning is to make sure we are reaching out, connecting, and collaborating with community partners.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece, and I would hope the teachers would be on board with that in terms of that, because that's how you're getting that deep history of the understanding of the community, particularly those who have been marginalized and still here to tell that story, right? So that might be something you might want to think about. Don't want to add to your plate, but just something to think about. So, barring any additional comments that need to happen, may I have a motion for approval?
I'll move to approve the opening of the 30-day window for public inspection for the proposed recommended ethnic studies instructional materials, Black History 365, and Give Me Liberty, starting on February 14th, 2024.
May I
I
have
second.
Ms. Munoz? Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
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 Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We are moving to H3, item H3, approval of overnight school-sponsored students trips. It's late night. I don't see, do we have any public comment? Okay. Dr. Sheffield's on her way.
Good evening again, Board President and Board members, Superintendent Maldonado. We are here to ask for you to approve student overnight trips. We have one right now. That's the San Marcos High School trip for their madrigals, their choir.
Yes. Thank you. Board members, any comments or questions? Comments? Just a comment that they are awesome. So this is great to be able to see them still doing their thing. So with that, may I have a motion for approval?
I move to approve the overnight sponsored student trips.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. We'll move to H4. Approval of staff travel, virtual participation out of state, approval of staff travel. That's number 5.
So we have one staff travel for our athletic directors for training, and the other 2 staff travel is to accompany our students in their student overnight field trips. We had the Dos Pueblos High School journalism. We had sent one teacher's approval last month, and we're sending the second teacher's approval to go through this month, and then for staff travel to go with the madrigals, the choir.
Okay. No request to speak, I see. Okay. With that, I just have a comment just to say thank you for the presentation, and I'm appreciative of it being out in the action agenda, because we have had several comments about budget travel, right. And so this kind of puts perspective in where it is. We might want to look at it, and I don't know how we might respond to that, not necessarily you, Dr. Sheffield, but perhaps Ms. Hernandez. Do we need to, be even more transparent about the travel budget so that we can, address that? With any additional comments, Ms. Beal?
I just had a question. I'm just looking at this rubric you have for the cost. I'm thinking for the third item, that's the cost of the whole trip, not the 2 staff to travel with. Because if I look at the other columns, the cost of the other trips, I think that's a staff cost, and what's below is maybe the whole trip.
So if you're looking on the this form right here,
yes.
That is the cost for the staff on the top 2, and then on that bottom one, that is the total trip.
That's what I would just want
Yes.
to make sure. Okay.
Okay. All right. With that, may I have a motion?
I move to approve this this travel.
Okay.
Second.
Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
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 Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sheffield.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move to H5, approval of human resources recommendation. Dr. Vecchio.
Thank you very much. Good, not morning.
Feels like. Feels like it.
Go ahead, laugh. Good evening, Board President Sims Moten, Board Member Superintendent Maldonado. I bring to you the HR recommendation list for your consideration tonight, and just wanted to, as usual, point out a couple highlights from this list. First, I'd like to take a moment to recognize Sonia Amaral, who is on this list as a soon-to-be retiree. She will be with us until the end of the school year, but does intend to resign June 30th, and we appreciate her work at La Cuesta Alta Vista. I also wanted to recognize the two certificated retirements that are on this list. Barbara Barr, who's at Roosevelt Elementary, has served 35 plus years, and also Janice Connolly, who's speech and language pathologist, 19 plus years. Also, congratulations to Patsy Mazarregos, who is getting a promotion from office assistant to senior office assistant, and Elaine Rice, who is moving from district records tech, promoting into admin secretary 2 position. And then as always, wanted to recognize our classified employees who are receiving premium pay. There are Enrique Ariola, Oscar Duran Montalvo, and Deanna Nungare, who are receiving language service premium pays, and then Tammy Hogan, a premium pay for a bachelor's degree, so congratulations to her, and Joanna Salante for floater premium pay for her work as a special ed IBI itinerant employee. And with that, I turn the list to you for your consideration and approval tonight.
Okay. No request to speak from the public. Board members, any comments or questions on this item? Hearing none, may I have a motion for approval?
I make a motion to approve the human resources recommendations.
I'll second.
Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Great. Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Vecchio. That moves us to agenda item I with our first report, STAR Assessment Report. I see some folks, Dr. Sheffield, and Mr. Vince coming on up, and Sonia is coming on up. All right, we have a trio. Okay.
Yes, good evening again. I'll be joined by Mr. Steve Vince and Dr. Sonia Amaral to present this STAR report, presenting information that definitely the board has been asking for some additional detailed information. And so as we begin this conversation in regards to the STAR report, I wanted to bring your attention to our multi-tiered systems of support. Some key areas that we want to look at is, as we talk about strong and engaged site leadership, we're using our data to guide our decisions. And then as we look at strong educator support systems, again, using that data. And then the LEA policy framework, it calls for us to review data. So data is that thing that's driving our decisions, helping to support our educators to identify the needs for our students, and helping us build stronger student achievement. And we always want to bring back our roadmap for high quality Tier 1 instruction, narrowing in on our academics and on that A for assessments. So we will be honing in on that data-driven decisions as we make these decisions and what we use the STAR report for. As our Ed Services Department always wants to start with our learning target and our success criteria. And so our target is we will learn how our district uses STAR assessment data results to design high quality Tier 1 instruction and Tier 2 interventions to provide more equitable outcomes for students. And our success criteria is that I can explain the relationship between STAR assessment data and how the information is used to design Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction and interventions. And I can describe how STAR assessments fit into our multi-tiered system of supports. So I want to bring your attention to this learning target and success criteria because we will return to this at the end of our presentation.
right. Thank you, Dr. Sheffield. So what is the STAR assessment? It is given to our students. We have basically the timeline for our elementary students. We give it to them fall 1, and then we have a fall 2 assessment that we give to our kids. And that assessment is actually used, the results of that assessment. We know that our elementary teachers, many of them use that report during parent-teacher conferences, so that's important for you all to know. In the winter, we do, with elementary school, they do the same thing, so we slide the assessment window over a little more for elementary so they can do the same. And then they do one in the spring. For junior high school and high school, I'll just talk about junior high. We have one. It's basically the fall assessment, the winter assessment, and then we might do a spring assessment for students to do that formative test as they possibly go into summer school. High school, right now they're doing it's on the block schedule, so they do one at the beginning of that semester and they do one at the end of the semester in their subject matter, so it's either the English class or the math class, and the same, they do it in the spring semester as well, beginning and end. What's a screener? So the thing about the STAR assessment, we have one in reading and we have one in math. They're both aligned to the California state standards. That's important to know. So this is not just some sort of assessment aligned to informal reading skills. So it's aligned to that. It's been calibrated around CASP, so there are measurements there, so it aligns with that. As well, it takes a student about an hour or less to take the assessment. It's a digital assessment on the computer. It is an adaptive assessment, so if I'm not doing so well, it'll bring me down to the grade level where the skills are lower than that grade level. Or you might see it go actually higher, and we're going to show you examples of that tonight. So all right, so this is the screening report for, actually this is taken from one junior high school math class this winter. So this is what it looks like for our students in that class. So notice that the threshold is basically between the green and the blue. So the blue being in particular at standard, or the green being above the standard. By the way, this is the reading assessment, so they also did the mathematics assessment as well. The yellow means that it's below standard, and then the level 1 is far below standard. One thing about this assessment, here's the thing that you might have been hearing from some teachers, which is that what we notice is in the elementary school, some of the schools originally were going further than just this report. And what I mean by that is, so we've been doing this testing for several years, and we've been doing it at junior high school level, sometimes at the high school. But here's what ends up happening is that we give the report, it comes out with the numbers, it tells the students who are doing well and not doing well, and just giving them the score. And the teachers look at it and they say, so tell me something I don't know, right? So this is not where, as I would say, where the juice is. As a screener, this is just a dipstick to let us know what's going on. And what I would like to do is introduce you to really where the magic lies in terms of this assessment. So the next 3 slides, here we go, it's kicked in there. The next 3 slides, this slide and the other 2 slides, are actually from the same English class. 3 different students with the winter assessment. If you notice, this is a student who's in the yellow. The top graph actually shows you where they are at this time and how well they will be doing if they were to take approximately how well they would be doing if they take the CASP assessment. The projected is it's algorithms that are designed to give a projection where they possibly could be by the time we get to the spring assessments. And again, that's if we just continue to do the same thing over and over again. What we're looking at is providing Tier 1 type of instruction and Tier 2 particular instruction to address what we're seeing. This is a perfect example of what a teacher would get in order to figure out what skills to work on in terms of their class as part of Tier 1 instruction. Notice, because it's in the yellow, what you're looking at doing is trying to pinpoint specifically what skills are needed to be addressed. And noticing, not just with this particular student, but then when you start pulling the other reports in that classroom, you could triangulate which skills you want to really focus and lean in on. So there's no surprise, if you take a look at key ideas and details, when it says summarize text while omitting personal opinions. That's a big one, because it was a big shift when we went to Common Core standards, because all of a sudden we were leaning in more on informational text, because we want students to use the informational text to teach themselves and to think critically. And this is part of that. So a teacher would be leaning in on this report and other reports. Let's take a look at the next student. So this is student B, and just to let you know, we had in this assessment in this class, 60% were either in the yellow or in the red. You'll notice that this 7th grade student, you could see where they are in terms of their language development and the reading skills. This test and these results will help you to start focusing on the skills where the students need in order to improve. And one of the key things that we see, particularly with a student that's behind like this, is, for example, I'm going to point out a couple of things, which is explain simple similes and metaphors. That tends to be a challenge with our students, which we would see our EML students, as well as those other students who are having a challenging time reading, or those students actually have not developed their language skills in their for whatever reason, right? So that would be a key thing to really focus on. You'll notice that the phonics, there are a couple skills there that really need to help them to reinforce. So again, what they would do with this report, tie this report in with other students who are at this level and start doing targeted intervention. And this would be a short period of time, and then start addressing these specific skills so they can start to increase the reading ability. And I know Dr. Wilson will be talking more about that. The last one I would like to point out is the 3rd student. You'll see where they are placed. And again, we are talking about addressing every student and what their needs are. Just because they're at a high level, we want to continue to address that. And that's the Tier 1 instruction that we continue to talk about. And that right here is where we would say is the juice. Now the next step is going to be like, what do you do with this in order to address it, specifically with the intervention and the Tier 1 instruction. One last bit of information for you. You'll notice the timeline for the assessments. For the Tier 1 assessments, that's pretty typical: fall, winter, spring. Sometimes we don't do spring because we do a summative or end of year assessment. That's your CASP. So we don't necessarily need it unless we know that students are going to go to summer school, then you would want to assess them at that time. Notice the Tier 2 assessments. There's that green dot that's going all the way across. That's when we do those interventions on, let's say, that those student that had the phonemic issue that we wanted to address. We would give the student, they have what they call in the STAR assessment, they have a CPM assessment. It's very tied to a specific skill. And they learn, well, they'll take that assessment at the beginning of their session, their intervention session, and they'll take it at the end of their intervention session. So that way they know what if the student had learned it or not. So again, it's used like a doctor Sorry, Miss Beal, but you're using it truly as a diagnostic tool. So no one's guessing, no one's assuming, you're going into it. One other last thing, and then I'm going to pass it to Professor Wilson over here. We test students in the high school, and we see that they'll take the assessment, and you look at the score, and you're like, oh my gosh, we're having issues here. And then you realize the student is like taking AP Physics, AP, yeah. So clearly, this is what it means to be a screener. It's exactly that. We're screening the students to see where they are, but it's not the end-all, be-all. So, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you. So as we consider the STAR assessment data, when we think of our EMLs, we also need to consider other things and other aspects that may be impacting their literacy. So we also need to consider how many years have they been in school in the formal education system here in the United States, as well as identifying their English language acquisition level, so how they're doing over time on the LPAC as well. So just really thinking through, are they making adequate progress in terms of their language proficiency? And so these are all additional considerations that we want to make when we consider where a student might be performing on this STAR assessment. So as you look at this third grade student who is currently performing in the yellow, we need to think about how all of those other considerations connect to their overall literacy development and additional skills that they might need. So you see down below, as Mr. Vence shared, some of those highlighted skills that come from the reports, such as integration of knowledge and ideas, so describing how an author supports main points in text, comparing key points made in text on the same topic. So those skills need to be just really thought through in terms of the overall language proficiency of the student. I also want to just point out that as in the district we have an online platform called Elevation, and this platform is our district-wide platform that houses all of our assessment data, grade data, LPAC, as well as the STAR assessment data for our EMLs. So this is a resource place that we can use to progress monitor our EMLs, specifically how they're progressing on their journey towards reclassification. This slide here really depicts two visuals that highlight the systemness that we are building as a district in terms of how we're using and responding to data. And whether that data, so on the left-hand side, if we think of data either coming from the state, such as our CASP assessment, or district data, such as the STAR assessment or other district data, we want to see that data really cascade down and feed and impact the site, so that the site is looking at the data, and then that the data is continuing to move to the PLCs, and these are our teacher professional learning communities. And within these communities, the teachers are, can analyze the data just overall, whether it's STAR assessment, CASP assessment, or then moving into the classroom data, so that ultimately we know that the classroom is where learning is going to be impacted. And so we want that data to be able to impact classroom instruction and be able to, of course, lead to more positive student outcomes. We see that the data really coming from larger scale state into the classroom, but also the data can feed up. So reciprocally, we can see data from the classroom assessments feeding the PLCs, and PLCs using that data from the classroom, then impacting the site as well as district support and decisions that are made. To the right, we also see this visual that really depicts the interconnectedness of the school, and the school being that place of transformation for this data, but also the district being that point of intervention, so we can support the sites in terms of accessing and providing resources and professional learning. We're also given outside support and technical support from the county, the region, and the state. And all of this helps us know how to support and impact our students and families, right? So this image shows that interconnectedness of the whole community and the whole system and how it's working together to support student outcomes. So if we think of the site as the point of transformation, as we look more closely and consider the analysis of the STAR assessment results, at building the leadership capacity of our principals, which is called our principals leadership team. So we want to build the capacity of the leadership team to use and analyze this data. So this is work that we're doing as a district, is to build out the system so that we have consistent routines for how we're analyzing this data. And so we're training our principals leadership team. We're also training our MTSS district leadership team so that they're using that same routine to analyze the STAR assessment data. Then the work would be for the sites to share that same routine and same data with their site leadership team. Site leadership teams are composed of principal and administration as well as teacher leaders from across the campus. So giving them an opportunity to analyze the data, and then again, moving that down to the teacher professional learning communities. And the ways in which the groups can really use this data is, so once the PLCs analyze it and then this data goes to the classroom level, that can influence Tier 1 instruction. And so those are the skills that Mr. Venz pointed out. Those are the specific skills that teachers can focus on in their Tier 1 instruction, and this can be used in tandem in support with the core curriculum. In addition, our MTSS TOSAs, as well as district administration and/or teachers, can work together to identify students who are in need of additional Tier 2 support. So they can use the data to identify and determine who those students are, and they can use some of our Tier 2 support, such as Power Up Lexia, Lexia English, Math IXL, and at the elementary level, Freckle and Power Hour.
So we're back at our learning targets and success criteria, hoping that my colleagues were able to get you to a place where you understand our target. If you guys could work with me here, hopefully you could fill in the blanks, and if not, I'll help you out. So our learning target, we will learn how our district uses STAR data results to design high quality Tier 1 instruction and Tier 2 interventions to provide more equitable outcomes for students. Yes, there you go, group work. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? And then so our criteria I can explain, and I'm hoping you guys can explain the relationship between STAR assessment data and how the information is used to design. Yes, Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction interventions, and I can describe how our STAR assessments fit into our, there you go, MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support. So that is the end of our presentation. Do you have any questions, comments? We're here to answer.
No public comment, but no public comment, so Ms. Beal.
So I have 2 questions. The first question I have is maybe a little complicated, not so easy to answer. We're really dependent upon students taking these tests and being able to take them successfully. So what happens if we have a student or a group of students that are not able to be assessed this way? There's some issue with test taking or maybe absences, I don't know. Just what is the plan for that? And then the second question, kind of unrelated, is how do we communicate this to parents? I remember, my youngest has just graduated from high school, so I'm not going to get any more test results from the schools here, but I would get these things at the end of the year, and I'd be like, okay, you know, okay. So it looks like there's now a longitudinal assessment. And so what's the feedback going to be to the parents about this, like during the process?
So in response to your first question, in regards to it might be student absenteeism or if they have test anxiety or things of that sort. So addressing our student absences, it is the expectation that our teachers work with our site administrator to, once that student returns, then they provide an opportunity to take the test. And so if they've been absent, they provide another setting and that student is able to do a makeup test. And that's with all of our assessments. And as we try to meet our participation rate, we look forward to providing alternate opportunities. As far as our students with maybe a disability or test anxiety. We do have students that may have a 504 plan that might have an IEP that requires alternative opportunities and accommodations for them for test taking. And so it is our expectation that our classroom teachers are implementing those accommodations for those students. So if a student required additional time, they would be provided that opportunity to do that take that assessment and be provided that additional time. And so there might be a variety of accommodations that they may need, and we are required to provide the opportunities for them to receive that, and the classroom teacher would put that forth.
So basically, you're saying every student will have some sort of report with an assessment, however it happens. I mean,
that is the expectation. That is our request, and that we try our best to make sure that happens. I can't say 100% because there are sometimes students just so happen to be absent on those test days. It depends on the student, but it's our effort to ensure that we meet the participation rate. Yes.
So I appreciate that Dr. Wilson shared the state tests, district tests, and so on. The state of California does require a 95% of students' participation rate in test taking. So I just want to be clear because that hasn't been the case in Santa Barbara Unified, and we've been working really hard at improving that, and it's especially an issue in high schools because they only have the 11th graders take the test. So there's been a lot of efforts made in the last couple of years to incentivize students to participate in test taking. The high school principals have done a great job of organizing activities for the other students to make sure that the environment for test taking is done well. So that's just for state testing. So with that expectation, we follow the same idea, which is to try to get at least 95% of our kids to take the test. It would be wrong for us to say it's 100% because there's always going to be one or a few that don't take it. I think the other question you had was around how parents are informed. Were you guys going to follow up on that question, how parents receive information about the tests?
First off, I think the other thing to understand is that the culture of taking the STAR test has really been ingrained more at the elementary level than what we're seeing at the junior high and high school level. So that's number one. The second one is that what we're seeing this year is that actually we're holding schools accountable to take the assessments, whether it's elementary, junior high, or high school. That's the second thing. The third part of this is actually, it's a shift in thinking because what we're trying to do is, what we're noticing is that there's an incentive for teachers wanting to do this assessment because they see where the value is. It's just not an assessment that's just telling them that their students are failing, right? So with that being said, regarding informing parents, I think at the elementary level, that's one thing. At the junior high school and the high school level, with the STAR assessment, this is going to be one of the things that we'll continue to work on with the junior highs, how they can inform their students on the trajectory in terms of reading and mathematics, right? So this is, again, one of the things that we'll be teaching our schools how to pull the report out of STAR and to then share that information with their parents. We haven't actually given them, the junior high and high schools, any type of training in that particularly. Right now, we're training them specifically how to pull these reports, both the screening report and the student outcome report, so they can actually start doing the work that we are talking about doing. So that's what's happening right now.
Ms. Munoz, did you have a question? Okay. Mr. Escobedo.
Yeah, thank you so much for what I think is a really comprehensive board report. Not only just the presentation, which that was fantastic, but the board memo. This is kind of what I've been looking for in terms of board memos, especially when it comes to topics like this, where I think there is a lot of understanding needed to go with the data, right? We're driven by data. We use data to inform our decisions, but make it real for people with demonstrations like this. And it was really impactful for me. I loved when you all build on the knowledge that you kind of ingrain in us. So having the learning targets and success criteria, and I looked through the book before today's meeting that you shared with us last meeting, Ms. Sheffield, and I think this is really impactful for us to understand how we're coming to the conclusion about what interventions are needed, who needs the interventions, and what I would like to see when we have it, because I think we're pretty early on, right? When we have it, what would be so fascinating is to see the students after the interventions. So to see the STAR data before, then we give them the tier 2 interventions, and what we would hope to see is that you would have higher scores. So that's a future request. Whenever we have that data, whenever we feel ready to do that demonstration, I imagine it could be next year or the year after or what have you. Hopefully sooner, but yeah, if it is sooner, that would be fantastic. But a couple of questions that I had. So I'm looking at slide 6, and it has the different colors, and there's the benchmark. If we could pull up slide 6. And I see numbers, and I may have missed this in either the board report or in the explanation, but can you tell me a little bit about what 1110L means?
That's their Lexile level. So that's a way to determine where they are with their reading ability. So what you're not seeing in this report is underneath is a list of all the students. So obviously we're not sharing it, right? But you'll see the name, you'll see specifically their Lexile level. So that way you're able to really start grouping them in terms of their ability of Lexile. So, Sonia, you want to talk a little bit about that as well?
So Lexile level is also very important at both the elementary and secondary levels because it is an indicator of their grade level proficiency in reading, and it also is something that many of our books, so core literature books, have a Lexile range. So it's a way for a teacher to be able to provide a student with an appropriate level book to actually read, and so that way they're reading at a level that they can feel successful in and continue to develop and grow in their reading proficiency. So it is a really very important indicator in the area of literacy development.
Thank you. I'm so glad I asked that question because that's a really helpful answer and leads to my next question. When teachers get these reports and it gives them this really valuable, useful information that really pinpoints where the interventions are needed, do we have supplemental materials to help the teacher, or let's say it is with the teacher, do we have helpful materials that help them so that they're not creating it from scratch? I'm sure that we're sharing supports.
Yes, I would say that at the elementary, it is definitely more aligned because they have the newly adopted program Freckle, and Freckle feeds from the data in STAR, and then from there, students are able to work on activities that are appropriate to their level in skill development. So I would say definitely at the elementary level. At the secondary level, we don't as of yet.
So what's the challenge? I imagine that there's Freckles seems to be readily integrated into the STAR assessment. I'm guessing that there's not that same type of platform or intervention for secondary. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Those are all my questions. I just want to say thank you. This was very helpful for me.
Yes, Anastasia.
So if a student were to need interventions, like how would they receive that? Would they be given class time, or would that be something incorporated into the overall teaching?
Yeah, so that's a great question. At the elementary level, they do have the power hour. So that is a designated time during the day where students are able to receive the intervention. At the secondary level, we are just starting to build some of the literacy-focused ones in, and we're looking right now at providing those opportunities either before school, if our junior highs have a designated time like the power hour during the day, which we do have one site that has that, actually one junior high and 2 high school sites that have like Royal time that is built in during the day, then those are the designated times that they're looking at delivering that Tier 2 instruction.
Okay, and then clarifying what was said earlier, so you were saying that these reports are also going to be sent out to the students and parents now?
Yeah, so we don't, at the secondary level, have a formal plan for communicating the assessment results to families. I know for students, teachers would be able to give the students their individual results. At the elementary level, I do believe that they're provided to families at parent conferences, Yes, at parent conferences.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful for some students, because I know that when I take the STAR, it kind of just goes over our heads, and then we don't really know what we got on it, like what we need to improve. So I feel like if students could see the results, I feel like that could be damaging in a way if they were super bad, but it could also help the student know what they could improve on, and then when they see later when they take it again, if they've improved, I think that could motivate them to also try harder on the STAR too.
Yeah, that's great feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. No additional comments from the board? Thank you. Yes.
So I really appreciate hearing from you, Anastasia, and also Dr. Beal in terms of how do we loop in parents and students. But I do want to double down on what I said earlier and what Steve and the team has said, creating the culture of having a regular set of assessments that we all use together so that we're all comparing apples to apples is new to the secondary space. Not so new in elementary, because in elementary we actually have structures in place where we have the parent conferences. There's also something we do in elementary, which is midpoint notices, where we say, okay, your third grade student is midway through this, from between the first grading period to the second grading period, and is in danger of not meeting their standards. And that's a legal requirement that we have to meet. And that was something else that we've been working on, just getting teachers and the system acculturated to actually meeting that requirement. And at first it was really hard because, nobody wants to give out notices that your child is not making it. But it's a process, it's a procedure and process that we've been doing a lot more work on. We changed the report card, so that was another layer of things that we've asked people to change and do differently. There was a new report card adopted. There's new procedures in elementary for midpoint reporting to parents. And then to your point about how do we do it in junior high and high school, as you know, as kids get older, parents are less and less involved in schooling. And so I think that, this is an opportunity for us to talk to the principals and explore what are some things that we can do. We'll look at the platform for STAR and see if there's parent reports that we can generate, and there's nothing wrong with sending them. But we would definitely want to set up everybody for the questions that would follow if you're a parent receiving a report that's like, oh, I need to figure out what are the interventions and be ready for that. So those are things that I will let you know that we'll look into further and bring back. But we are still in that step one of getting the whole system in agreement. And I'm going to report back to a meeting that Kenya Edison was holding last year with the MTSS district leadership team, which is representatives of each school, not principal level, but either MTSS coaches, help me out, Kenya here, coaches, teachers, special education, ISS, I'm repeating in the microphone. Several people that said to us in that meeting when we were gathering feedback on what are tools we need to really do this MTSS work that we keep talking about, and they said we need a common assessment that everybody can use, that we know when it's going to be given, that will generate information for us. So this is where we are now, and that was a direct result of hearing directly from people doing the work. So it is still very much in that stage of implementation and the kinds of things we've asked teachers to change in their practices and the kinds of things we've asked principals to change. But that need for a common assessment and a common time and a dipstick into how our kids doing is something that is part of the MTSS data decision-making process. When Sonia talks about the data routines, are we all looking at data through the same lens? Are we asking the same questions? Who's getting it? Who's not? Why not? What do we do about it? Those are things that we're implementing and putting in place as we solidify and make MTSS the practice of the whole system.
Yeah, I mean, I will comment that at the elementary level, yes, this assessment, these children are in the classroom, they're learning together. It's kind of a communal environment. So I understand the interventions. Everything works so well in that setting. I think, yes, really when I was talking about getting the information to the parents, I am really speaking about at the elementary level, because that is our goal, is by the end of elementary, really to have them be as equal as possible in terms of their literacy. I think at the high school, secondary level, I think we just have 2 years we're looking at it, right? And so that is, I think, more feedback for us on how literate our students are at the secondary level, which is actually really important, right? And so, yes, it would be wonderful if we could have some intervention, and I hope that's in the plan, but I think we use the data for what it's worth. And as Gabe mentioned, I would love to see it, like with all these reports about what we're doing as we're generating this data. I would love to see what it looks like at both levels, knowing that maybe there isn't a concrete plan for secondary yet, because we're still trying to figure it all out. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that presentation and that information. I'm so glad we passed the test together. And I appreciate all the the input it does. We actually retained it, and the fact that 9:15 we retained it, that's just doing good, folks, board members. But I really appreciate that, and I also just take a step back from the early care education. Really, that's important for us to look at how we can support our preschool, particularly our TK. How do we look at that and get them ready for that piece? Because we know that third grade marker. How do we do that? And so hopefully coming in stronger to be able to do that as well. So thank you for that information. Okay, so thank you. So now, folks, we will move to last item, I2, District Facility Condition Assessment Board Report. Mr. Vance.
It is I.
Hi again.
All right, taking it home here.
Bring it home.
Just a quick thing. I wanted to give an extra shout out to 2 people for the storm and making sure that we were A-OK, and working at La Colina and making sure we had power at that school site. At that time, both of our top leaders for facilities were sick. So the director of facilities, Marina, and JJ, the facility supervisor, they were both out ill going into that time. And part of our conversation is building leadership within our staff. And so I was able to talk to Brett Coulter, who's one of our project managers. And he stepped up with amazing leadership and oversaw, once the storm passed, making sure that everything was in place, and then seeing the couple of facilities like Roosevelt and then La Colina in particular to address that, to make sure we had school starting the next day, especially with the main frame or the main power breakers blowing and being burnt out. The other person I want to say thank you to is Matt Corrals. He's our electrician who was out there. If you remember that Monday, we were working on it. It's nice and sunny, but later in that afternoon when he was working on all the electrical stuff, it started pouring rain. So, I mean, he was extra safe, just letting you know. He's very safe with the way he does, but he did a great job with that. And then also Desmond Ho, who was out there helping us make sure they were up and running. So especially thank you to those three. District facilities. So I'm just going to go straight through this and answer any questions that you might have. Why did we do a facilities condition assessment? Number one is that we're finishing up the projects that we had with our bond funds, which is Measure I and J. So now that we start to make decisions what to do with the remaining amount of those dollars, it's time to start. First, let's see what our facilities look like at all the schools, assess that, and then start to develop a facilities master plan, which is really what we need to have in place at our school district. Last time, I did a little homework and talked to people, Dave Hetjunk and others. We did a master facilities plan, or actually we developed one. We contracted out with Teleq Construction. So, and pulling down data in Munis, we paid about $1 million up to $1.3 million to do this process. And I shared that with you and shared it publicly, the plan that was developed by Teleq. That plan was, to actually implement that plan, it would have cost us about $900 million, almost $1 billion. It was definitely a Cadillac of plans, of all plans, as you'll see. The other part is the thing that I saw that they didn't take into consideration is the enrollment decreasing. And I pulled down that data, and I think it's very important for you to be aware of that. That enrollment from 14-15 to 22-23 school year, we've gone down by over 2,000 students. So when we start to develop our master plan this year at this time, we want to make sure that we're taking in all of those variables. The second thing is that we'll make sure that we'll be bringing in all of our partners with that. So let's move into the plan or to the assessment. There we go. The assessment was actually done by our staff, our maintenance and operations staff. Shout out to Marina and JJ, who really coordinated efforts to put this together and get it going. We started in September and then ended by I think November. One of the things that came up was there was a plumber, senior plumber, Tom Magnus, who was retiring, and he wanted to meet with me. And one of the things that really brought my attention to this issue and the importance of it is that he was talking about the sewage line that was going out to, that was in GV, how it's been in place for such a long time, but there are some serious issues with it. And the last thing we want to do is actually have a problem where we have a major leak, and with something like that, we would have to close school and think about how we re-coordinate it at that level. And this is very important to remember because these are the things we're using to determine what's our number one thing we need to address, right? So with that in place, we started the assessment process. We used these 4 categories that you see. Basically, the building envelope, that's all the structures that obviously you guys could see, as well as the electrical system that we just talked about at La Colina. By the way, that was the electrical system that was put in originally, and I think in the 60s, I'm not sure, but it's not going to be there next year, so we're updating that right away. HVAC system. One of the things that we keep hearing in particular are the need for air conditioners. As you know, majority of our schools don't have air conditioning, but many of our furnaces need to be replaced, so that's another thing that we'll be taking into consideration. And then you've heard things from Desmond Ho talking about the replacement of thermostats and so on. Then, of course, the last thing is the plumbing assessment at all the schools. These are the 4 categories, and then the 5th one, which is some of the things that came to us by various school sites, and we didn't assess it at the time or give it a priority because it didn't hit number 1 or number 2, and as well as we need to get more input from all of our partners, and that would be determined by the when we start developing the master plan. The most important thing is that you'll see listed here tonight are all of the items that are listed as urgent or critical. So anything that would cause a major risk to our students of it's a safety risk or a liability risk or an educational risk, which means closing the school and shuffling a bunch of kids to another location. And as you see, here are the items that received number 1 priority. And I know, Marina, you guys had gone through this list multiple times to give priorities and then really fine-tuning it. So as you could see with these schools, this is what we're specifically looking at. In the grand scheme of things, the cost of doing this is definitely feasible and things that we will do right away. So this is what we will do. And then in terms of those that prioritize at 2 through 4, we're going to take those items as well as do the master facilities planning and then actually start to start charting out when we would do those items. I shared with you the list you'll see right here with all the things that that were assessed and looked at. Another key thing that I just want to bring to your attention with this assessment, you might remember with the school accountability report card, there was an item that was called the FIT, the facilities, it's an inspection tool. And we're required by law, by EDCO, to do that every year at each school site. So that was taken into account with this as well. So, so we have that in place. So that leads us to next steps. We've already completed the facilities condition assessment. So the next part of it is then we're going to start doing the community outreach. So we'll also a combination of that as well as creating a committee to do this work. One of the things that we would need to do is gather up the needs at each school site. What educational needs are we looking at? As well as what are we looking at in terms of some of the schools might be getting with less students. So how are we going to approach that? What are the things that we need to do to update our instructional spaces? All of that taken into consideration. And then ultimately develop a draft to the plan, take it to the committee, or take it to the district at large, get feedback, similar to LCAP, I would say, and then eventually take the final master plan to the board, showing how we're going to invest our dollars and get your approval. And that would be the steps we would take for this process. Oh, there we go. And I would like to bring up Mr. Paredes Ulloa. There you go. Otherwise known as there are a couple people in the school district known by one word, kind of like the Super Bowl usher. You say usher, everyone knows who he is. You say, yeah, exactly. We have Ish, and then we have JJ, those two. All right, Ish.
Thank you, Ella. Good evening, Board, Cabinet, Dr. Maldonado. Just going to do a quick update on the Armory. So as some of you have heard in previous conversations, we have looked at the Armory as a housing site, but I do want to remind everyone of the original intention of purchasing the Armory, which was to create a space for education. If you look at the original language under Bond I, it actually talks about creating a career tech education space. So with that, we have been actually approached by different tech companies to start looking at that space in that way again and to be able to figure out what we can do with it. But I do want to bring a couple things up to your attention. You may remember from a previous board meeting, but there is a historical status attached to that space. If you don't know, the main building for the Armory, the one that everyone knows, everyone that had their quinceañeras there, their weddings, etc., is a historic resource, has a historic resource designation by the Historical Society. So does the Rose Garden there as well, so go check it out, I guess. And hopefully it will be another beautiful landmark in Santa Barbara. We also have the ancillary buildings, the buildings around. If you look at some of the ones to the bottom left, those are some of the auxiliary buildings there, and those are actually buildings of merit. So all that to say, there are some considerations around what we can do with those spaces. What we have found out, thankfully, is that because we are an educational institution, there is an opportunity for us to do more with those spaces, regardless of their historical status, in and only if it is addressing an educational need. So again, that is something that we'll be looking at, and hopefully we'll be able to start planning and getting going. For the Armory space, we do have some funding from Bond I. I put up J on there, my mistake, but it is Bond Measure I. $8 million that was set aside especially for this project, and then we have the Tatum property sale that should bring in about $15 million. That could also be used for creation of this future tech space. And that's my bit. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Assuming no public comment on this. Board members, any comments or questions?
I just have a question about this plan, and it really actually comes from an email that I think all of the board members got. So I think you had mentioned the telequeue. It sounds like it was not just a study, it was also a quote for services, right? The 900 million. And can I assume that elements of that were, oh, we still need to do this, or have we accomplished some of the things on that 2015 report, and we're just starting anew? Where are we with our maintenance plan from that report?
So I'm not sure for that question, and I would have to look into it. I know that in 2016 or no, 2017, they started to chart the work in terms of what construction projects we would take on in terms of the bond funds.
Okay.
So we have a spreadsheet that we have been tracking and continually using since then in terms of which portables at which site we would replace, and all of these various construction projects that we were projecting to do. So that was done a while ago, quite a while actually. So
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, my question is I mean, as expensive as what they suggested, they probably had recommendations, right? And
Yes.
so just as you are developing a list and saying, where are we with these repairs, then, I would imagine there's some information. And I guess the question I have is, does the decrease in enrollment have to do with the fact that there are certain projects, buildings we're not going to use, and so that's why it had to be revised? Like, how does the decrease in enrollment impact our facilities maintenance?
So one of the things I noticed, that's a great question. One of the things I noticed in particular with that plan, as I was scanning through it, many of the facilities that they were planning on building, they were planning on putting a second floor. They were also planning on putting second floors on current structures that we have. So they were expanding square footage at the time when we don't need more square footage, or if we did, it wasn't very targeted. So they were looking at it at all schools. I do think the next step is to go through that huge document and try to pull out some things that they might have discovered, because we might find some things that could be very useful with our planning process. So that was something that I discussed, I know with Marina, we had discussed it, and so that would be part of this process.
Yes, and certainly in terms of the Armory, I'd be interested in, possibilities in terms of the students learning about trades, at this center, the students that are not wanting to go into traditional college, and so forth, the different trades that can be explored, equity and inclusion as, and economic improvement for them, in terms of a future path. So I'd certainly be interested in, seeing if that's a possibility or, exploring that further.
And some of the considerations we have for that space is traditional trades, but also looking at future applications, future trades that are coming. We have the CHIPS Act. We have a lot of incentive to be looking towards the future, to be able to get those students ready for that world yet to be created. So these are some of the considerations that the district is going to have to undertake. Again, about half the space is either a building of merit or is historical resource. So we have to be very careful and mindful about how we use that space and what the rest of the space gets used for as well. But definitely your point is taken, and we want to make sure that we're using the space that we're not replacing anything that we already have in existence, and that we're leveraging the space that we already have, the resources that we can have to be able to really build that out, so we're not limiting the students and the opportunities that they can have.
Excellent and very exciting. Thank you.
And Dr. Beal?
And my comment is very similar to Rose Munoz's, which is that, that it's so attractive with tech companies and the tech industry to have just, here's your space. We need these students to be tech ready for the future. And certainly that's there, but there's actually technology going into more traditional career pathways. And I feel that we're looking at this future for our students where they may choose to go to college, they may become academic, who knows, go into certain professions. But I think we're trying to create a space where they don't feel that that's the only path, and that they have that support. So I think just not letting tech take over that whole thing, that word means so much in some ways and so little in others. So just,
Absolutely.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I just want to clarify, and I know that Wendy has been with me in some of these meetings. The tech companies that are approaching us are not necessarily asking us to do more of like the traditional technology, software engineers, programming pathways. They actually are asking us to prepare them for the kinds of trade jobs like electricians, plumbers, as they build their facilities which use technology. So the CHIPS Act is all about manufacturing of semiconductors. Thank you. The semiconductors. So it is more of the entryway career path into technology jobs that are related to supporting technology industry, and not necessarily more of like the engineering programs we have like at Dos Pueblos. So I just want to kind of clarify that they are talking to me more about those kinds of jobs for their work. And I know that some of you have been with me in some of those.
Certainly, I'm thinking more the hands-on, because we are seeing some, the issue with affordability of staying in Santa Barbara and the interest in hands-on trades. Some, youth that I know, that are now, in their 30s and stuff, had the opportunity to be like an apprentice with a local plumber or a local electrician, but some just don't have that opportunity. So I'm thinking more the hands-on, and as you mentioned also, not so much the tech, and the potential for that, which is awesome. So,
absolutely, and we've had conversations with some of our partners. I can think of the city in particular about preparing those students to be able to take those positions in the city, to be able to get that mentorship, get that training early on. And so, as the director of community partnerships, I'm also looking towards the city to work with us to see how we can set up those internships, the trainings, those other pieces necessary to not only teach them within this confined space at the Armory, but how do we get them real world experience as well? I don't want to speak out of turn, but those are just some of the things that have come up in conversation through my meetings.
Just make one more comment. You had talked about the historical parts of the Armory that we probably won't, change the buildings, but there's spaces And I'm assuming they're usable spaces, right? They're historical but usable. I think one of the things when I look at these board meeting notes, a lot of our students are going elsewhere to learn about business. And I feel like we have a lot of those choices here in Santa Barbara, and we are looking at a future where we're going to be very skinny with our budget. And so, I mean, we do need to have those partnerships where we're not sending kids to Silicon Valley to learn about tech. We actually have tech companies here, and it could be a space where they can have fairs or whatever. It's a building, but it still is educational. So I think we can do something with that space that isn't all just classroom and hands-on stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely, and again, that will be part of the consideration, just kind of what kind of use we can get out of the building. Also, and I kind of bear the lead on that one, so as a historical resource and buildings of merit, and as we are an educational institution, we do have the ability to remove those buildings if we find that they are not stable, they're not able to, we're not able to maintain them. And that structure is historic for a lot of reasons, but mainly because it has a lot of years behind it. So those are things that we would have to look at and be able to consider to see if it's something that's cost effective. Because again, we don't want to spend $900 million, as Mr. Vance said, on something that would be much easier taking a different avenue on that. But we do have that option if it becomes the way we want to walk.
Mr. Escobedo.
So, thank you. I guess I'll piggyback on the Armory and then go to Mr. Vance. So for the Armory, historic buildings in Santa Barbara are kind of the third rail of any sort of new development. And I actually appreciate the fact that we have an avenue outside of the historic resource ordinance that exists in the city. Because if it does become cost prohibitive, we do have other options that we can utilize that space in the best way that serves the needs of our students. With that said, I think it would be a good option for us to either engage the city separate of our joint meeting or add it as a topic of discussion, saying here we're very preliminary, right? We're not going to break ground tomorrow. So it could be a good time to just open up the discussion and get the concerns that we're hearing from folks, particularly city council, that might inform some of our decisions later, but also put it on their radar that we have needs for our students, and that is our top priority. And so we're looking for partnership to navigate some of the issues like preserving a historic resource or making it cost effective for the school district for us to accomplish our goal. So now is probably a good time. We have a new city administrator coming in, Dr. Maldonado, if you want to.
Yes, and I would say that the chamber should also be engaged in that conversation to help with some of the local businesses that could also participate in creating some of this public-private partnerships around that development.
In the partnerships, I'm thinking more of just the navigating the, I hate to even think this way, but like strategy-wise, thinking about the politics of navigating what is a very hot topic in Santa Barbara in particular. And the earlier we get ahead of that conversation, I think the better. I think Ish, you know very well how these conversations go sometimes. So I just want to say that I'm totally on board with many of the comments that my fellow board members made about the Armory. I'm excited about exploring what options are there, that we can use that site. It is a large site that has sat vacant for way too long, and I think it could serve our students. So that is all I'll say about that. Thank you, Ish. Steve, can you tell me a little bit about the school outreach? And who do you consider a part of the school outreach? Are we just talking about school site staff?
Yes, I think that in part. So just a preliminary thought in terms of the structure. We've been analyzing other master plans from other school districts and seeing how they approached it. What many of them showed is that they have a committee, an overarching committee, but as well as they go out to school sites to get feedback from, it would be the teachers and parents and so on at each of the locations. And then they compile that information.
And then are they taking that as just one of many considerations of how you prioritize these things?
Yes.
And will it look similar to this of having different categories of prioritization across the district? Is
Yes.
that the idea?
I mean, part of this in particular is it'll be interesting to find out what people are wanting to see in their schools. I think one of the things that we're going to definitely see is going to be, can we get more air conditioning?
Mhm.
So, but that's like going to be a $50 million plus investment if we do something like that. So we'll have to be strategic about all of this because we don't have that.
Yeah. I will just say as a comment, where possible, when we address all of the high priority items that are the most urgent, when we get to an area where we're talking about more elective projects, maybe
Yes.
a good way to say it, giving more deference to the school sites themselves in the plan is my personal preference, and I just wanted to say that on the front end of this process.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The one thing that's going to be our challenge as leadership is that the balancing act. So if we say to one school, well, you'll get A, that can impact whether the other school will get B because of the amount of money investment. So that's going to be the thing where that's why we want to have a committee and we want to engage schools so it's not just decided upon the facilities team, myself, or what have you.
Yeah.
So,
And who would sit on this committee?
to be determined. Again, we took this step knowing we're going to take this next one, so we'll get more information. We'll keep the board informed with this process.
But it'll also include school site staff, not just district staff.
Yes, that's
Okay.
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Marina and JJ and the rest of the facility staff. This is a huge undertaking. I know there's a lot more work to do, but seeing a list like this, I know a lot of work goes into it, so thank you so much.
Yes, great. Thank you. So I may have a couple comments. First of all, thank you for all that worked on this. I remember in 2017, and I still have that binder somewhere that they just kind of handed it over to, talk about kicking the can. It was a big old trash bag, going, not that it was trash, but a lot of things are going on. So I also look forward to connecting what we're doing here versus what we were saying in there and have those things been done or completed or somewhere through the facilities projects that have come along. I'm also trusting that as we look at this, that I know Mr. Ho would be very diligent in looking at how we can fund some of these things. So I want to do a shout out to him because I'm always giving him a hard time. So, so I always, hey, I would give him a shout out. So a couple of things just on that. We're looking at some approximate costs right now, but we don't know what that cost is going to be when we get in there.
Right.
And I don't think I understood that more than when we came on the board and they were just, or in the middle of starting the stadium at Santa Barbara High.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a funny thing. In fact, we came on the board, and I don't know, we're not quite there yet, but we came on the board, it happened to be in August of that year, and it was Fiesta. And typically the district has had a float for the board members and others to ride on. But that particular time we didn't have one, so we walked the parade route, right? So we got there about halfway, and they said, where's your float? And somebody said, they don't have the money. They're spending $35 million on it. I'm like, dude, why you have to talk about us like that? We just got on the thing. So I'm just saying that it says that once they got in there, it's an old building. It was a slough. It was so many things because it's sitting on so many different things that it used to be, but the school sites are sitting on things. And so I say that. So when we get into there, even though it's a priority or different things, like estimating that the cost may be far greater, and so that meaning that we might have to minimize some of them, just based on what may happen in 1 week, figure out something. So that was a funny story, but it was a realistic story though. And the second thing, and I'm definitely dating myself on this, with regards to the Career Tech, two things. The program of OROP, Regional Occupation Program, it's sort of like that in advanced, right? So just keeping that in mind of what that did and what skills were learned through that program as we move, forward in the future. And I think it's also important, and I don't want to add anything to the plates of our youth groups, but I think maybe perhaps asking them, also putting their voice in there, what would they like to see as this become, what would they like to focus on? It might be art. I know we have our various academies, but if we're looking across different places, what are the things that would help them see them being able to see themselves in the future, also making money, also being able to stay, in the, in the area. And I think it's important to know, for a long time it was about if you didn't go to college, you weren't successful. So how do we make sure that it's career in college? And I know that we've really been trying to improve that and advance that by these classes also being A through G required through those classes. So there isn't if you go here, if you choose that path and you can do that, great. But if you choose career in tech, it's no less that in terms of that. So that's something that I think that as we promote it and as we do our advertising of it, that I think that's something really important, so one's not feeling one less than the other.
Yes.
So that's my comments on that piece. So any additional comments, board members? Okay, well, thank you all for a great presentation, Mr. Vance, and
All right, thank you.
all who included in that. Dr. Maldonado, did you have something? Or we just, I didn't know if
When you get to the coming events.
Okay. All right, so we're moving past. And, okay, so we didn't have any items we had returned, so we'll move to coming events. I know you wanted to add some things.
So, board members, I under coming events, we did list the board retreats dates, and I did send you in the Friday note those dates, but we have heard from our facilitator that we're looking to work with, and those dates have now changed. So I'm going to give you new dates. I apologize. We just heard this yesterday, Sandra. So the new dates that she is proposing is March 23rd, April 13th, or April 27th. So if you're not ready to make a decision, clearly these are like a little bit out in the future, as opposed to the 2nd, 9th, or 16th that I had sent earlier. So once again, March 23rd, April 13th, or the 27th. The 13th is out, okay?
Yeah, I don't know.
Any other dates that pop out at anyone? And just, okay. Anybody have a conflict with April 27th? And I realize that pushes it a lot, but I know in terms of the context and the environment, that's probably better anyway. April 27th looking okay for everyone? Okay. So, Sandra, you'll reach back to Valerie. Thank you so much for that. That's the only thing I have for coming events.
Okay, and I was just thinking, are there any events there's a lot of Black History Month events that are going on, so please look on the website there for Black History Month events that are going on. Also, for the Santa Barbara Education Foundation, with regards to those, there's a couple of events, the jazz event at La Cumbra. I don't have it in front of me, but I'll make sure I send it to you so that you could update. Do you have that one? Okay. I thought I put it on the 24th or something. It seems like that's it, but I don't know. But we'll update the board on that. Yeah, don't show it on there. I thought Mr. Paz sent it out to us, but I don't know. Right, okay, so we'll be sure to get those dates out to you so that you can look at those and participate. And they are a great partner and making sure they're filling the gap to make sure our students get what they need. Do you have it? Okay.
It's February 22nd at 7 p.m. Thursday, February 22nd at 7 p.m. The Honor Band and Bravo concert at La Cumbra Junior High School. I'll send you the calendar invite so it shows up on your calendar automatically, and then you can decide. Okay. And what was the other one?
The 22nd.
February 22nd.
It was the 22nd. I was thinking 24th, but I don't know that there's any.
And also, well, in April, but the Hope Awards
Yes.
are April 25th, right, Thursday?
That's right.
Okay.
There's another, I did want to just, so just to clarify, for future agenda items, I hear Board Member Escobar asking to, I think this is the ask, to start to try to schedule a city meeting with the city administrator not necessarily a meeting of the council with the board, or can you help me clarify that?
I think we need to figure out if we want to bring up the armory topic this spring, or if maybe that's a more informal conversation between you and the new city administrator.
I can have that. I'll reach out and meet her.
But I do think that we need to schedule a meeting with the city council as soon as possible, because they start their budget meetings next month.
Okay, similar to the one we held in August. We just want to get started to try to schedule
So
that.
if
So
we're-
I'll reach out to her, introduce, start that meeting and get that going. And then the other thing I want to make sure the board knows, I know this is a while back you asked to hear from the organization that does a lot of advocacy on English, on emergent multilingual learners. I know that Dr. Martinez is here, and she has heard that they're available. They could just come on Zoom and give you a little bit of the preview of the work that they do. It's not on our governance calendar now, but, as things progress, maybe we can invite her. But I just kind of want to get a sense. I think given the governance calendar and all the things we're doing, and we're a little bit late, maybe more like towards May, trying to see if we can get her into the meetings then. Or maybe in the summer, maybe the July meeting. Good, okay. That was all the questions from me.
And also, we've been just requested, we haven't met in a while, obviously, with Santa Barbara City College. We want to get a joint meeting with them.
Okay, Sandra and I will work on that one as well.
Okay, hearing no additional requests or to the meetings, anything, let's adjourn this meeting today to February 27th. Goodwill. Happy Hearts Day tomorrow. Thank you all for your work.